would come and go, shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit notimetowait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Eva's wedding.
Nana's 80th.
My first interview.
Whenever I'm on the road, I wonder, where's everyone going? Every truck, bus, car, or bike, we all share the goal of going somewhere special beyond where we're driving to. So, let's work together to make sure we all get there safely. Visit www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. Paid for by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration.
When interest rates rise, it's not all bad. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, helping you understand why now is the time to purchase an annuity. Annuities are the only products that will guarantee you an income you can't outlive. It's those guarantees that are tied to Treasury rates. And as we know, those rates are at 40-year highs. If you're in or within 10 years of retirement, use this to your advantage. This is exactly why it's possible to receive up to a 25% upfront bonus for income, and why it is possible to receive up to 10% per year for income growth. It's because of the high interest rates. Don't let anyone tell you it's not true, but also don't wait. Interest rates and these guarantees will eventually come down. Call 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600. Or visit TrajanWealth.com.
Guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company.
Traffic and weather together, again brought to you by Granite Credit Union, helping members since 1935. Clearing out just in time, Andy.
Yeah, it's much better now on I-15. Our delays are gone between Draper and downtown. Through Davis County, you got a little bit of heavy traffic in Kaysville and some southbound slowdowns on Highway 89 near Oak Hills Drive that we've been seeing around this time over the last couple of weeks. We do have a cleanup of a crash northbound Redwood Road near 21st South. We got a couple vehicles on the right shoulder as you exit off of northbound 215 at 2300 North on the west side. Out in Park City, we've got slowdowns both directions of I-80 near Highway 40. There's a crash on the westbound side, and construction causing a lot of delays on Highway 40 near Jordan Elm. Zero Res is partnered with Unload, Utah's premier valet laundry and dry cleaning service. Schedule your carpet or air duct cleaning with Zero Res, and they'll add in a free service from Unload. Call for details, 801-288-9376. I'm Andy Farnsworth in the KSL Traffic Center.
We'll have a high today of 84, some scattered showers, 80s all the way through Saturday. Tomorrow being the warmest among them at 87. Thunderstorms every day, too, for the rest of the week, except the least chance coming on Wednesday and Saturday. So just in time for whatever your weekend plans are. Right now in Salt Lake City, sunny skies and 68 degrees at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Welcome into the show. Dave Noriega, and filling in for Debbie today is Mara Carabello of KSL at Night. Mara, thanks for filling in.
I'm excited to be here.
There is so much to talk about. Let's start with our top local story, which is going to be
Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top local story,
which is going to be this horrible road rage incident that killed 2 in Eagle Mountain Sunday afternoon around 1:30. There were 3 vehicles involved, although it appears more that only 2 of them were part of the road rage itself. But then a third vehicle gets involved, wrong place, wrong time.
Was brought into it, and it sounds like they actually had the biggest sacrifice, that those drivers didn't make it. And, you know, Dave, when I first read through this story, one of the things I feel like we have to start the conversation with is road rage is something we are all familiar with.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
Absolutely.
There's something about being on the road and you've had a bad day or you are ticked off at something at work. And what is it about being behind the wheel that we feel like that's where we can express ourselves and our anger or frustration?
It was interesting. I was looking through some of the statistics on road rage, and the surveys are incredible on so many levels. because 80% of people admitted in the survey to doing something dangerous, as far as not letting somebody merge over, speeding up, driving dangerously. So if 80% of people admitted to it, we're all doing it on some level.
For sure.
And then it escalates and becomes incredibly dangerous. And this was just a tragic story. Sergeant Spencer Cannon with Utah County Sheriff's Office joins us right now. Sergeant, can you describe what happened and how this incident began?
Yeah, Dave, it's good to be on the show with you, and welcome to the show, Mara. It started down in the city center area near an area called Brandon Park. At some point along that way, the driver of the Nissan said that this F-150 pulled out in front of him. Now, his description was that it was a two-lane area that he just pulled around and passed this car, this pickup, and that the driver of the pickup then began tailgating him. And this lasted all the way on Eagle Mountain Boulevard from the city center up to State Road 73, which is about 5 miles. And they both turned right to drive eastbound on State Road 73. The driver of the Altima was in front and was in the main travel lane. There's only one lane each direction in this location. The driver of the pickup truck, the Nissan driver, reports that driver was tailgating him at that point and that he was afraid, that he accelerated to get away from him, but there was a car in front of him. The driver of the F-150 at some point along there moved over to the outside right-hand or eastbound emergency lane and pulled up to the side of the driver in the Nissan. The pickup truck driver didn't then just bump the car, but rammed the car. If you look at the pictures that I posted with the press release yesterday, you'll see what I mean. There are tire marks up the entire side of the passenger side of the Nissan. The pickup driver rammed him purposely. This was not an unintentional or accidental thing. This was an intentional act on the part of the driver of the F-150. The driver of the Nissan said he then slammed on his brakes. The driver of the F-150 at about that point then lost control, went across the center line, and crashed head-on into a westbound Porsche 911 Carrera, and the two occupants of that car were killed instantly. It was an extremely violent impact. It destroyed the Porsche. The F-150 was significantly damaged as well, but not nearly as badly as the Porsche. You know, Porsche is a lower riding vehicle, and a pickup truck essentially went over the top half of the car as it with that impact, and then ended up on the opposite side of the road. It knocked the Porsche back about 15 feet from where the impact occurred. The female passenger in the car, in the Porsche, apparently had some sunglasses or something. They ended up about 30 yards ahead of where their car ended up. So it was a very, very violent impact. And for something like this to happen, it is just inexcusable, is putting it mildly, the behavior on the part of both of these drivers, but especially the driver of the F-150 with this kind of an outcome. And now all the regret in the world can't change what the outcome is to a situation that, had they thought about it, would have maybe realized that this isn't some behavior that I should be engaging in.
Have your officers had a chance to interview the driver of the Ford truck? And if so, have they offered an explanation or a mindset?
I haven't been able to follow up with him yet. He was being treated at IMC yesterday. We did have investigators there, but I haven't been able to follow up to find out what they learned in their interaction with him. The driver of the Nissan, he was actually one of the 911 callers that called the crash in. And so we did talk to him, but I don't know a lot of detail yet about what the driver of the F-150 might have had to say.
Charges expected, obviously, for the truck driver. What about the sedan?
We'll talk about that today. It's possible. There's some level of involvement in a situation like this, and there almost always ends up being a primary aggressor in a situation like this. And while I don't know the full involvement of the Nissan, it does seem pretty clear that the driver of the F-150 was the primary aggressor in the ongoing road rage. The driver of the Nissan did express that he was afraid of what the guy was going to do. But this lasted for almost 6 miles total. And that's a lot of time to think about what can I do to end my involvement with this, let my pride go, let this go. And, people need to realize, and this is all of us, because you're right when you mentioned before I came on that we've all had some situation where we get a little angry at another driver, but we got to make driving an activity that we get involved in that can bring us peace, where we can relax and watch the road. Anger takes so much more energy than not being angry. And when you have the potential for these kinds of outcomes, it's just not worth getting mad at people over something that they do that is a perceived injustice against us while we're driving.
Sergeant Cannon, in the final 30 seconds that we have, what do we do if somebody starts driving aggressively and we feel like, what do we do?
Yeah, if you feel like it's bad enough, call 911. That's always a better option than how something like this case ended up. Take a deep breath, the old count to 10 principle, literally count to 10 and say, it gives you time to think about what your options are and what's a better thing to do, a better way to react than the way this guy did yesterday.
Sergeant Spencer Cannon, thank you for joining us. A tragic incident, a road rage incident that killed 2 people. And Mara, the fact that these 2 that died were not a part of the road rage incident at all seems so incredibly unfair. It's tragic on every level, but the fact that they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
On a Sunday afternoon, just sort of cruising around. And as he stated well, we need to be careful to not let these things escalate.
When we return, President Biden signs a bipartisan bill that increases the debt ceiling, allows the Treasury Department to start or continue, I should say, paying its bills. What we know about the deal next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Hi, it's Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Why should you start your day with us?
We have decades of news experience between us.
And we take your trust seriously.
Come here for news tomorrow, 5 to 9.
On KSL.
It may be summer, but the news isn't slowing down this year.
For Stewart to step down.
Construction of the West Davis corridor continues.
Warmest May ever.
Make KSL your go-to each morning this summer. Utah's Morning News with Tim and Amanda starts at 5. We talk through the biggest stories with Dave and Dujanovic at 9 and Boyd Matheson at 1. Then drive home with key news updates with Jeff Kaplan from 3 to 7. Your all-summer companion for news. KSL News Radio.
When it comes to your electrical system, do you know the warning signs to look for? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and it's okay if you don't know, but here are a few things that you might not even realize could be a sign of a bigger problem. Wall plates that are hot to the touch, discoloration around switches or outlets, if you hear crackling or popping or buzzing around switches or outlets, a breaker that trips a lot, switches that feel loose when you operate them, if your lights dim or flicker when a major appliance comes on, if your plugs fall out of the wall easily. You know, you're not supposed to have to bend the prongs out on a plug just to get it to stay in the wall. If you notice any of these things, you should consider having a licensed electrician check your system out. If you don't know anyone, Any Hour Services has put together a radio-only special for any homeowners listening. One of our licensed electricians will perform a comprehensive electrical inspection and give you a full written report for only $29. But you have to mention this ad when you call. To schedule your comprehensive electrical inspection by a licensed electrician for only $29, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7300. That's 801-443-7300. Any Hour Services.
Hello?
Hi, I'm
Mr. Sparky.
What gave it away? The fancy tool belt? How about the big red truck?
Actually,
Yes.
you're on time.
That's our motto. We're on time. You'll see her. The repair is free.
You rhymed. That's cute. Are you always available?
24/7.
24/7.
Oh, I don't sleep much. So what seems to be the problem?
Well, my toddler plugged the dog into the light socket.
Yeah, I see your house is blinking like a pinball machine.
Can you fix it?
The house or the dog?
The house.
Well, I'm Mr. Sparky. If it's electrical, I
You
can
can
fix
it.
You betcha.
From a small electrical problem to new lights to smart home services, generators to whole house surge protection, and everything electrical in between. Call America's on-time electrician. Mr. Sparky is fully licensed to install or repair any electrical work. Just call 888-8-SPARKY.
Hold on, this is where we bring in the singers.
You don't have to put up with any malarkey. Call 888-8-SPARKY.
Our state's children face a serious threat from the vaping industry, but thanks to state leaders and the Utah Health Department, Utah established the strictest nicotine standards for vaping in the United States to protect our kids. However, the vaping industry sued, claiming their sales and profits are down. Now they're pushing the health department to hand control of vaping regulations to the federal government. We can't allow that to happen. The proposed change would automatically increase nicotine levels in vape pens and reintroduce fruity flavors that entice our kids back into Utah convenience stores. Visit StopKidsVaping.com today and make your voice heard. Utah should maintain state control, preserve our 3% nicotine limitations, and prevent vaping flavors from returning to Utah convenience stores. Together, we can secure a better future for our children. Join us at StopKidsVaping.com and tell the health department, protect our kids.
Paid for by Prosperous Utah Communities.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Tim Hughes. First,
one person is dead following an apparent drowning at Palisades State Park. I'm KSL News Radio's Adam Small.
Second, the nominee for Utah's first Great Salt Lake commissioner will face his first Senate hearing this morning. And third, gas prices could be going up after Saudi Arabia announced it will send less oil to the market. We'll look for a high today of 84 degrees, and right now in Salt Lake City, it is 68. Let's get you back to David Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
The U.S. debt ceiling. In-depth coverage on KSL News Radio.
After much hand-wringing and impending doom discussion, the United States will not default on its debt. They'll raise the debt ceiling. The markets won't crash, we hope. But there was a little nugget here, Mara. By the way, Mara Carabello's filling in for Debbie Dujanovic today. And Mara, Republicans ignored former President Donald Trump's challenge to just let the country default.
You're going to have to do a default because we're spending money like drunken sailors.
So just to be clear, Mr. President, you think the U.S. should default if the White House does not agree to the spending cuts Republicans are demanding?
You might as well do it now because you'll do it later.
That was at that town hall that CNN held. And something was done, though. There was a compromise. There was negotiations. He wanted big, large spending cuts. And instead of sticking to their guns, Republicans negotiated.
Right. And, you know, it was epic. So, I mean, it brings up a couple questions. One is about Trump himself. Did he play it wrong or did he not? It's interesting if we just follow the Trump timeline for a second. As you said, this was during a CNN interview. This past weekend, many Republicans, most Republicans, were in Iowa at the state fair. Trump took a pass on that. So the question is he still influential? Well, the answer is, of course he is. But what he's showing here at this is it doesn't feel like they're quite willing, the Republicans, to follow him into the brink the way they once were. I mean, what he was talking about today actually is the big day. Monday the 5th was the day that we were supposedly officially running out of money.
Right.
And remember, this is not about spending. This is about paying our debt.
Yeah.
And you know, and there's a relationship between the two. You know, let's not be naive about that. But this is about, are we going to pay the credit card bills for the things we had already spent the money on? Yeah. He wanted to take it to the brink. And yet you see Speaker McCarthy have one of the best weeks I think I've seen him have as a speaker because he actually came to the table and negotiated.
Well, President Biden, as his response after this would happen, because it always seems this catch-22. When you work with the other side, then you get criticized for bending or kowtowing to their demands. But nevertheless, he was celebrating the fact that this was a bipartisan deal.
The stakes could not have been higher. If we had failed to reach an agreement on the budget, there were extreme voices threatening to take America for the first time in our 247-year history into default on our national debt. Nothing would have been more irresponsible.
The bill does include some spending cuts, some spending caps, at least for the next 18 months or so.
Right.
At least get through the election season. It's so transparent, the timeline.
Yeah, and you know, there's definitely lots of theater in this, right?
Yeah.
There's more style over substance in this, but hey, I still want to be glass half full and say we compromised on something. Look, we can do it.
as opposed to the compromising and doing nothing that has been going on for a while. Karen Travers is an ABC News correspondent in Washington, and I asked her about this bipartisanship.
That this was not going to be something that would pass unanimously. There were, of course, going to be people on the far right, the far left, maybe some in the middle who wouldn't like it, but that's how negotiations are going to work. And the president said, not everyone got what they wanted, but the American people got what they needed. He said that the government managed to avert an economic crisis and an economic collapse. And he really emphasized the need for cooperation between Republicans and Democrats, given the divided government right now. He said the only way democracy can function is through compromise and consensus. You're going to have lawmakers, though, who will not agree with that type of compromise and consensus, but that's how it works right now.
Was this a one-time deal? I mean, is there going to be more bipartisanship in the future?
I mean, that's what the White House would like to say. I asked Karine Jean-Pierre about this on Friday. What are his priorities now for legislative bills going forward? What does he want Congress to move forward on? What is he going to put his, the bully pulpit? What is he going to do? And she gave me a list of things that the president would like to see Congress move forward on. But I got to say, a lot of it is stuff that it's a hard time seeing the House Republicans do that. There are things that they have to do. They have to fund the government by September 30th. You and I have probably talked about this before. They don't do it by September 30th. They do those short-term deals. They punt it till November or December, and then they figure it all out before the holidays. But that's probably the next major test for Kevin McCarthy, keeping House Republicans together, for the president to try to work with Kevin McCarthy and his team. But that's the next probably big test of bipartisanship. And I think that's when you see the Mike Lees and other House Republicans who are not happy with what went into this deal try and really flex some muscles the next time around and say, look, we had to deal with that one and we didn't like it and we voted against it. But now we're really going to draw a hard line on what we want to see in these coming spending bills.
And Mara, when she was talking about the relationship, the spending first and then the paying the bills second, right. We're fighting over the paying the bills, but the spending, that's coming up here in the next few months.
Right. And this should be a fight for both. Here's one thing that's fascinating about this. The culprits are equal. So normally back in the day, it would be that the Republicans were very fiscally conservative at a federal level. Democrats less so, focused more on programs. It's no longer true. I mean, the Trump administration spent as much as anybody. In fact, the last time we balanced the budget was President Clinton. Yeah. And so really you're looking at both sides having the desire to say they're fiscally conservative, but not the appetite to do it.
Some of this blame, and I give a little bit of a pass to President Trump because a lot of that spending was in the initial throes of the pandemic when everything was complete and total chaos. We're shutting everything down. And then when President Biden replaced him, I think a lot of the frustration was how long that spending, the COVID spending, continued once we kind of realized that the drastic measures that were initially taken were no longer necessary, but we just kept spending and spending and spending.
But Dave, what you can't give Trump a pass on and what you can't give Republicans a pass on is they do unfunded tax cuts. So there's a big celebration of tax cuts, which is something that the headline is highly desired.
Yeah.
But if you don't have...
If you're cutting revenue.
If you're right, then it doesn't work. It's artificial, and worse, it's candy. It's not good.
Yeah, the tax cuts have to be along with spending cuts.
That's right.
Because you're right. It doesn't work if you keep spending it the same and you're reducing your revenue, no question. Another little element here that I think hasn't gotten as much play is that President Biden, again, we talk a lot about the $20,000 in student loan forgiveness that he's been trying to promote. That's caught up in the courts. But what this bill does is it ends the deferred payment of student loans. And this is what Karen Travers says.
And also it ends that 3-year pandemic pause on federal student loan payments. And that's going to be something significant for the 43 million borrowers who will have to start paying back their loans at the end of the summer.
Tens of millions of folks that have been just sitting back.
Yeah, and as you suggested, so the one part of this is already in court right now. The Supreme Court should rule on this constitutionality issue. But like you said, so they've been sitting back, they've had it deferred, and it looked like they were going to permanently had it deferred. And now it's going to come due fast for over 43 million Americans.
I will be fascinated to see during those 3 years how many people continued to pay their student loans interest-free, right?
Yes.
They wasn't accumulating or charging any interest whatsoever. If people took advantage of those 3 years or if they just stopped paying.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. My gut says most stopped paying.
I think you're 100% correct.
Yeah, and it builds the equity discussion of the whole thing, right? Like, what if I had already paid mine off? What if I kept paying during this? What if you did this? It makes it a more complicated public debate.
What is awful is we don't know. Right? So the incentive is, well, why would I continue to pay this off if I still have hope that President Biden's going to waive 10,000, 20,000, perhaps even more? The not knowing what to do is the worst possible scenario because that very thing. This would have been a perfect time for all of us to say, for the next 3 years, I'm going to buckle down. I'm going to pay off absolutely as much as I can of my student loans, interest-free.
Right.
But I think you're right. I think when we look at those numbers, we're going to see everybody just put a pause and just stop paying.
Yep, rolled the dice a little bit.
Rolled the dice. And I can't say I blame them.
No, I don't either.
Because there's few things that would make me more angry than paying off my student loans.
Oh.
And then everybody else gets them.
Yeah, it would be painful.
Yeah, exactly what is happening right now. So anyway, that was, sorry folks, if you have some student loans, you've been sitting on it for a while, by the end of the summer, you're going to have to start paying again. The bill comes due eventually. Coming up next, the GOP primary, it is growing and growing and growing. A couple big names are expected to announce this week. Former Vice President Mike Pence, and then former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie expected to jump in the contest. We'll go out to Washington and discuss.
KSL News Time now is 9:30. I'm Tim Hughes with a look at some of our top stories this half hour, and we begin with our top national story this hour from ABC News. Officials say 275 people in India are dead after a train crash over the weekend. 2 passenger trains derailed in one of the country's deadliest train crashes in decades. Authorities say a critical signaling issue caused that crash. Utah's migratory shorebird survey is back after a 30-year hiatus. Ashley Kajowski with the Eccles Wildlife Education Center says the data collected so far shows a decline in the number of birds living in and around the Great Salt Lake.
We do know that shorebird numbers across the Pacific Flyway are down from other data. I think they are using and shifting their use on the lake.
Kajowski says even though the spring survey revealed lower than usual migration numbers, this could be due to a change in water levels being higher this year than in previous years. In sports, Utah women's softball has been eliminated from the College World Series after back-to-back same-day losses on Friday. KSL Sports anchor Jeremiah Jensen explains that Utah's 4-1 loss to Washington put them in a very difficult situation for the second game.
That meant the Utes had to turn around on the same day, play an elimination game without their ace pitcher against Oklahoma State in Oklahoma City. It was just too much to ask.
Utah fell 8-0 to Oklahoma State, ending their first trip to the World College Series in 29 years. Your money at this moment. The Dow still the only one in the red this hour. It's off 103 points after that jump of 700 points on Friday. The S&P is still up 10. That's a gain of about 0.2. The NASDAQ also adding 68 points, or about half a percentage point this hour. Coming up, looks like we've got a few more days of storms. On again, off again, afternoon showers possible, but warm temperatures. We'll check the forecast next. KSL News Time, 9:32.
We have enough people running around Broadcast House at 4 in the morning to field a football team.
Producers, reporters, the traffic team, and us.
This is Tim and Amanda.
Join us each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
The Management Minute is a service of the MBA program in the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University. I'm Professor Scott Hammond. You cannot maintain a career. You can change a career, grow a career, abandon a career, but you cannot maintain a career. The simple fact is the water is moving and you're either going up or down. If you are in a job, you need to get ready for what is next, even if your boss, your organization, and your peers stand in your way and cannot see it. Have a career development plan. Look at what is next. Join online professional organizations and learn. Grow your career by learning. You will turn a mediocre job into a career that you love. Grow your career by learning, and you will turn a mediocre job into a career you love. Learn more about career growth. Consider an MBA at Utah State University. Go to utahstatemba.com. I'm Scott Hammond. Hope to see you in one of our classes.
Hey, Derek Overstreet here from the New Millennium Group, financial advisors in Utah. You know, I've been helping people retire in the state of Utah for the last 20 years. The way we do that is we actually find out what is important to you. We create a step-by-step plan that takes into consideration your income, your debt, whether you want money from real estate, stock market, annuities, life insurance, whatever. If you want to deal with professionals, people that are fiduciaries and have a legal responsibility and obligation to do what's in your best interest, give my team a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Or go to my website, utahsfinancialplanner.com. If you'd like to retire 3 to 5 years before you thought it was possible, give my team a call right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370.
Judge Janine Pirro here. Federal Reserve staff just said the banking crisis fallout could push the economy into recession. But you can protect your hard-earned retirement with gold. I love and trust gold. Even the big banks are buying gold. My favorite gold IRA company is Augusta Precious Metals. Call them today and get their ultimate guide to gold IRAs. Tell them Judge Janine sent you, and they'll give you a free gold coin when you open an IRA. Augusta Precious Metals, 844-44-PIRO. That's 844-44-PIRRO.
All right, let's take a look at traffic and weather together. Brought to you by Granite Credit Union, helping members since 1935. Heather Kelly's got an eye on the drive.
All the accidents and earlier delays along the Wasatch Front are gone, but if you're out in Summit and Wasatch counties, you're going to have big delays due to construction on US 40. That's both northbound and southbound between the north end of Jordanelle Reservoir and SR 248 that'll take you into Park City. The Ute Stampede Rodeo and Carnival is coming July 13th through 15th in Nephi's Juab County Fairgrounds, featuring top cowboys and girls, bucking bulls, horses, and award-winning entertainment. Visit UteStampedeRodeo.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Quick look at the weather here. These afternoon thunderstorms keep coming all the way through tomorrow. Matter of fact, they'll be on again, off again through the next 7 days. Things do dry out for a day on Wednesday before more storms roll through on Thursday. Today's high 84, tomorrow 87. We'll look for an overnight low of about 60 degrees. And right now in Salt Lake City, my guess is if I refresh this, yep, we've made it to the 70-degree mark downtown at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's all-day companion for news.
The Race for the White House. Special coverage on KSL News Radio.
If you have run out of fingers and you're having to use your toes to keep track of how many GOP presidential candidates are throwing their hat into the ring, I've tried to narrow it down as much as I could.
Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, Nikki Haley, Ryan Binkley, Larry Elder, Asa Hutchinson, Perry Johnson, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tim Scott.
So it's like buying a car. It's about the terms and conditions at the end of your car buy.
And that's just the people that have already declared, that are already in. How about the folks that are the maybes?
Mike Pence, Chris Christie, Doug Burgum, Kristi Noem, Mike Rogers, Chris Sununu, Greg Abbott, Marco Rubio, Glenn Youngkin.
From age 37 to 76.
Yeah, that's something.
That's a I guess maybe a surprise.
It's amazing. You know, what's also amazing, and this may change. I mean, elections are about momentum. And what we're seeing right now is more people getting in, right? More different kind of conversations. And hey, for the Republicans, you have a lot of different choices. Different parts of the world, or excuse me, the country, different backgrounds and experiences. Several governors, we like when governors run. But we're still seeing that the latest polling is still showing roughly 45% of Republicans are still hanging on to Donald Trump, and about 45% of people are hanging on to all the other ones. So, there's still some movement left in there, but wow, Dave, there are more and more people joining this race.
There's a couple other familiar names from the Republican Party that are expected to jump into the contest: former Vice President Mike Pence and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. Justin Finch, ABC News correspondent out of Washington, joins us right now. Are those the two biggest names to throw their hat in the ring this week?
The biggest names this week so far, but not the only two names expected this week. Tomorrow, the former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is expected to announce his bid for the GOP nomination at St. Anselm College in New Hampshire tomorrow night. Then Wednesday, the former Vice President Mike Pence is set to announce that he is running with the kickoff speech and then a video to follow that. But we just got word that Pence has filed his paperwork to launch his White House bid. So momentum turning there as well. And on Wednesday, Pence is set to appear on a CNN town hall. So really making it official there. ABC got a chance to speak with Mike Pence yesterday in Iowa, and he told us that he is well known, he has found, but he is not known well. So really trying to, in this rollout, go back to his roots in Congress and also in Indiana as governor and lay himself out as a true conservative, evangelical, Republican alternative who believes in capping spending, healthcare reform, and also getting a grip on unemployment in the country. As you mentioned, too, these two names are joining a very crowded field. You know the big names already, Trump, DeSantis, Nikki Haley, former U.S. ambassador, also in the race, and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum is the surprise name for many, who is set to announce this week as well, followed by the former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson and Senator Tim Scott. All of them were in Iowa over the weekend, shaking hands and interfacing with people there ahead of that state's primary. So we are really seeing the numbers grow and the wheels turn, and this begin to look like a formal Republican primary race. Their first debate is set for late August.
So, Justin, I'm dying to know your take on the relationships. And what I mean by that is usually you see the field shake up and somewhat, I'm going to use the term friends, eliminate each other or get out of each other's way. So you look at Asa Hutchinson. He's long time been, a non-Trump person. He opposes Trump. So that lane seems clear to me. But what are you making of essentially these friends or former friends running against each other? You have unprecedented, a former president and a former vice president in the race. And Chris Christie was well known after he dropped his presidential bid. He jumped all in with Trump. So you've got some former friends there. What does that do to the dynamic in the primary?
I think it really gives us, Debbie, a kind of like survivor aspect to this race. You have these alliances that were built, alliances broken, front runners here, and, of course, also the wild cards as well. We know that Chris Christie was, as you mentioned, once a big supporter of Trump. Pence, his former vice president. But all of these other people in this tent now, including the Florida governor, now believe that they are a better match for the top office, and that the former president himself, who does have a lot of support, may not have what it takes to get across the line this time, not only in the primary race, but also in the general, too. So even though many of them are friends, Nikki Haley appointed Tim Scott to be the senator in South Carolina before he ran again and won. So even there is a layered, deep relationship here. But I do believe we are kind of getting past the formalities as this race begins to kind of evolve and grow, of course. And I do believe by the midsummer or so, we could start to see the knives kind of come out and do their slashing as it gets a bit more serious in the campaign. And also as these candidates look to their left and right and see there are too many people here. How do I stick out?
Way too many people. Justin Finch, thank you so much for joining us, ABC News correspondent out of Washington. And Mario, if I'm looking at this race, and you described it perfectly, you've got a huge chunk of supporters that are always Trumpers, and then you've got a big chunk of never Trumpers. Right. Is there any chance that having this many folks involved is just going to dilute the Never Trumper vote, and then you're basically left with President Trump.
You know, I mean, it looks like to date that's maybe what's happening. But here's the thing. You have some – I love Justin's comparison to Survivor, because I do think this is going to be crazy inter-party gameplay in which it's going to be who does what exceptional at the right time. Because remember, now we're going to elect somebody probably by a minority, right? Because there's just so many that we're going to divide the pie. So – what are we going to all, as the electorate, glom onto? Is it going to be a speech? Is it going to be a specific policy point? I mean, many of these people share similar conservative points of view, same policies. So I think it's going to come down to some personality.
And it's the curse of the primary. A long primary is the worst possible situation because you're fighting each other. Mm-hmm. You're undermining each candidate that you hope eventually will be able to beat President Biden.
Right.
But if this goes on for a while, everyone's trying to make a name for themselves.
And it gets more and more brutal, and we just get turned off by it. A lot still ahead of us to see.
I remember Chris Christie, who, again, is expected to jump into the context sometime this week. He basically ended Marco Rubio's presidential because in one of these primary debates, he eviscerated him.
Yep.
It was the social media moment.
And these are seasoned candidates. About, you look at 2/3 of the field have really a lot of campaign experience.
When we come back, Representative Chris Stewart announced that he'll be resigning from Congress to take care of some family health concerns, but he's not going to be leaving until September, according to the Salt Lake Tribune. Lindsay Ertz will join us next, our KSL News Radio political reporter, on what the timeline looks like to replace Congressman Stewart.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Before Dave and Debbie get started each day, this station is all news all morning.
And later today, we follow up on those stories as you drive home.
Get important news all morning and all afternoon.
Here on KSL News Radio.
If you love to follow breaking news like we do, register for breaking news alerts by texting the Cyprus Credit Union KSL text line. Text the word news to 57500.
Experience the rail journey of a lifetime and see the Southwest like never before on board Rocky Mountaineers' Rockies to the Red Rocks route. You'll take in vast canyons and breathtaking mountains between Moab and Denver. You'll enjoy world-class all-inclusive food and beverage service on board a glass-dome train with a view unimaginable. You'll stay one night in historic Glenwood Springs, Colorado, and look forward to the next day's adventure winding along towering canyons, breathtaking plains, and magnificent mountains. You'll ride the rails through Ruby Canyon and admire the scenery through oversized windows, a view you'd never see from a car. Rocky Mountaineer is truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and they've extended their latest offer till June 30th. Save up to $1,000 per couple. And as a Utah local, you can save an extra $100 per person. Seats are limited. Visit RockyMountaineer.com before June 30th to book your luxurious, exciting adventure right now. That's RockyMountaineer.com.
Premium checking from America First Credit Union is so much more than a regular checking account. It's a saves you money, makes life easier, always has your back account, because it's absolutely loaded with fantastic benefits and features. In fact, it comes stocked with so much awesome stuff. It was voted Best Perks by Money.com. So make sure you're rocking more than a checking account. Head to America First and apply for the exclusive protection, perks, and paybacks of premium checking today. Subject to membership eligibility and conditions. Federally insured by NCUA. Since 1939, America First has been helping people pursue their financial goals. And as we have, we've become one of the largest credit unions in the country. The reason why is simple. It's because every day we do our very best to help each person, family, and business we serve to realize their individual dreams and achieve financial well-being. True to our name, we always strive to put our members and employees first. So come join us and let us put you first. America First Credit Union. Federally insured by NCUA.
I am a soul line dance instructor.
This is Rhonda.
I just love dancing, so I was always willing to dance through the pain, but it was really starting to catch up with me. I've had foot pain, leg pain, everything pain.
And this is Rhonda's Good Feet story.
I was using any and everything that I could to help alleviate the pain.
None of that worked. Until...
Since visiting the Good Feet store and incorporating the arch supports into my life, I definitely have not felt the pain. I can't even really verbalize just how much better I feel. My mood and my energy has just drastically improved. I'm still actually in awe. Wearing the arch supports and being pain-free now, I am able to dance longer. Dancing is just a joy.
Now that is one heck of a Good Feet story.
I do want to tell everyone about it.
And now you have.
So, yeah.
See how we can help you with a free arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
Stop by the Good Feet store in Farmington, Riverton, or Sandy for a free fitting. Call 1-800-NEW-FEET or visit mygoodfeet.com.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
Okay, outdoor summer cocktail party fit check. I've got a hot pink and orange bodycon dress paired with vintage sneakers. It'll definitely attract attention, but not from mosquitoes, because I'm wearing it with Off Clean Feel for 8 gorgeous hours of not sticky, fragrance-free protection. So I can sip, socialize, and flirt out there in the wild with absolutely unshakable confidence. Get your pre-party protection on with Off Clean Feel. SC Johnson, a family company.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Tim Hughes. First, police are blaming road rage for an accident in Eagle Mountain that killed 2 people. Second, the owners of a Bear Lake property speaking out after a runaway semi-truck plowed through their garage over the weekend. And third, one person is dead after an apparent drowning at Palisades State Park. We're going to look for a high today of 84 degrees, 20% chance of showers this afternoon, and right now it's 70. Let's get you back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Representative Chris Stewart announced last week that he'll be resigning from Congress, but he won't be leaving office until September, according to the Salt Lake Tribune. So what's the timeline look to replace Congressman Stewart?
So let's talk for a second about how we know this information, because I think that answers the question of the timeline. So a Tribune reporter really hustled. I'm not blaming him at all, but he sort of got the scoop, and Brian Schott released this information before the Stewart campaign had a chance to formally release it. And hats off to a reporter who's hustling. Yeah. But what I want to point out is we got this information. This was a bombshell, and all of us jumped on it. And within 12 hours, we were speculating, and then 24. So we don't quite know the timeline is the answer, because the day after that it was tweeted from the Tribune, the day after, Chris Stewart's office formally put out an announcement that he did intend to resign. So we do know, and we do know it's the health of his wife. So we do know that. But they hadn't been really given a chance to do it on their own terms. So I think they're in the midst of negotiating. And who they're negotiating on, I shouldn't even call it negotiating, coordinating with, is the state. So the first thing that has to happen is that the member of the body has to formally submit to the speaker resignation letter, and that starts everything off. So, but there's and
it's one of those letters that you can't go back on.
That's right.
So you say, if I'm going to resign by this date,
it's a done
sorry,
deal.
friend, you're done by that date,
Yep.
even if you change your mind.
And then the state rules start to come into play. But I think that's where this gets more and more interesting. And remember, this broke last week, and every day we're learning more. And going into the weekend, what we knew is that we thought Stewart was going to resign in September, and we know the existing law. And the existing law, if you add up all the dates, probably takes 6 or 7 months. You've got 7 days for the governor, you've got about a month for the parties, you've got 90 days for the primary, 90 days for the general. You add up your fingers and your toes, you're at about 7 months. But the key to that is the existing law. The state of Utah can always preempt that timeline.
And that's the bombshell, I think, that really surprised me, because we had Speaker of the House, Brad Wilson, on with us, and we asked him, okay, Congress is interesting. The Senate is 6 years. The House is every 2 years. We're only maybe 18 months out from just a full-on, where the term is just
regular
naturally
election,
up. So even the primary, you would have this as a possibility where you're like, it's only 18 months that you're going without a seat. Is that even a possibility? Brad Wilson was having none of that.
They're leaving that seat vacant until the next election cycle.
No, that's really not an option. There will be there will be an election to fill this seat. The decision the legislature may face is, do we want to spend money to accelerate the process even faster?
And that is where I think the antenna kind of goes up. And you actually spoke to Representative Mike Schultz as well.
So Mike Schultz is the majority leader in the House. So he along with Speaker Wilson, will be a key part of making these decisions. He and I, this is last Friday afternoon, he and I are having a conversation. Here's what he had to say about the timeline.
Is there a chance it'll happen with the November election during the municipal races, or is it going to have to be a different time?
I think it happens sooner.
What? Okay, then
you look at Chaffetz.
teach me.
Chaffetz, I think, was like 60 days.
Yeah, and remember how that didn't work out so well. So the parties need time to do a call. Are you going to waive signature gathering? I mean, that's what you'd have to do to expedite the process. And then don't you need to give the good citizens of the great state of Utah time to contemplate on the primary? Because I'm not even going to presume we're contemplating on the general. I apologize to my Democratic friends, but I think this is a primary election.
This is a safe seat, right? This is
I agree.
a safe seat for Republicans.
So you're thinking you can speed that quicker than 4 months?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Well, maybe not quicker than 4 months, but about that timeline.
That was a shocker to me.
That was a shocker to me as well. So that was from a podcast, and that's why there was some casualness to that. But, that would be really, really fast-tracking it. So you'd ask the question, why? What's the point? I mean, there's a couple of things that come up that are meaningful, and foremost is that there's only a 5-seat margin in the House of Representatives right now for the Republicans, and we have seen vote after vote and conference and committee. Remember, Chris Stewart has some really important committee appointments as well. Now, that may make the case that says, no, you want to keep Congressman Stewart there because he has some history with his colleagues. But it does point out that the Republicans can't afford to have any Republican seat languish right now without a representative. So I think there's as much pressure from the dynamics in Congress as there is a need to just make sure that Utahns have representation.
KSL News Radio political reporter Lindsay Ertz joins us. And Lindsay, as we're learning more and more, this appetite for a special session, perhaps changing the timelines and the laws, what do you make of that?
Yeah, well, in order to change the law, you would have to get into a special session somehow in order to get the body together to change the law, right? So signaling that they're going to shorten the timeline really does signal that they're probably going to get into a special session. Obviously, I have not confirmed that, and we won't know until this letter you speak of comes and the whole timeline starts. But that is what Representative Mike Schultz is essentially signaling here, is that lawmakers want to shorten the timeline to about 4 months. I wrote this up in an article on kslnewsradio.com. It's on my Twitter feed as well. But he went on a separate podcast as well this weekend and kind of signaled the same thing. And so changing the law really means they could change any part of it. When you think about it, too, there's some other needs at play, like from the state GOP. Chair Robert Axon has signaled to me he's concerned about the 4th of July holiday. And so they want to avoid the conventions for both parties being on the 4th of July. So that would signal that the 21 to 28 day clock has to start in a week or so they can avoid, or maybe 2 weeks from now to avoid that 4th of July. But getting themselves into a special session, once they do that, and on that podcast with Mara, Representative Schultz also signaled that he didn't believe the legislature would call themselves. He said he believed that the governor and the legislature would be able to work out an agreeable timeline. So that would presume, again, presuming and speculating here, that the governor would call them into special session, and then they would change the stipulations of this law. Schultz is signaling they change it to about a 60-day window between the primary and the general, and from the governor's call to the primary. And then you think about it too, you also have an election on August 15th this year, which is the municipal the municipal primary election happens this year. Now, as the law states right now, you cannot hold this special election on the municipal primary. But if we're going in there to change that law, again, speculation, you could change any part of that law you wanted to. So that would allow them to hold the election, say, August 15th and a November 7th date with coinciding with existing election dates. That would save them some money in the process, because we know moving the dates is going to require a lot of money.
KSL News Radio reporter Lindsay Ertz, thank you. And Mara, talking about money, if you do have a special election outside of the already planned elections, that has to be funded.
That's right, and the costs will go up. It'll be cheaper if we correlated to existing primary elections, but really only big cities have primary elections, so there's not a lot. So what we know for sure is we don't know for sure what it'll be.
And it won't be, this isn't a statewide election.
That's
this
right.
would be specific for the 2nd District.
That's right, which takes up the whole west side of the state. So there'll be a lot of citizens. It's about 800,000, little over 800,000 citizens that will have a chance to vote on this.
And as you said, the 2nd congressional seat, the way it's been redrawn recently, takes kind of the west side, a lot of Salt Lake, goes down along I-15 and down into Washington County, basically along I-15 all the way down to St. George.
That's right. And we do know, and I think it's good, we do know that the state and Chris Stewart's office are coordinating.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen on the KSL News Radio app and in your car at 102.7 FM. KSL News Radio, Utah's all-day companion for news.
It's 10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour, and we have breaking news. Former Vice President Mike Pence has filed the official paperwork to become a candidate for president. He's planning an announcement later this week in Iowa. He'll join a crowded field that includes his old boss, Donald Trump, along with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Salt Lake City police are asking for the public's help in locating the person who shot and killed a man near a downtown restaurant. Police spokesperson Brent Weisberg says the crime scene was complicated by a rowdy crowd. One person was arrested for crossing the yellow police tape.
They had a fight break out, so then their attention got diverted to that. So that really puts our officers in a really tough situation because it's stretching them thin, but they did a great job.
Weisberg tells KSL TV 2 people were arrested, one for assault following that fight, and again that person for crossing the police tape. One person has died after an apparent drowning at Palisades State Park. State Parks officials are saying this happened Saturday just after 5 p.m. 18-year-old Alejandro Morales was swimming with friends when weather conditions began to deteriorate. He went under and was later found in about 15 to 20 feet of water. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Dow Jones average down 86 points this morning after a strong up day on Friday. The NASDAQ, though, is up 61 points right now. And coming up, it looks like another carbon copy day. Sunny in the morning, thunderstorms in the afternoon. That's next. KSL News Time, 10:01.
Start your days with knowledgeable, friendly voices telling you about the latest news and weather out there.
Hi, this is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
In the business of waking you up each morning from 5 to 9.
On KSL News Radio.
As a roofer, I'm always on the go. So I need to be able to get things done from anywhere. That's why I partner with Beacon. With the new Beacon Pro Plus app, I've got the brands I depend on, like GAF, right at my fingertips. It's like having my Beacon rep in my pocket 24/7. I rely on Beacon because I never stop building, and neither do they. Now through June, purchase through Beacon Pro Plus and earn up to $1,500. Beacon, always building.
At Grainger, we're for the ones who pay attention to every little detail. The ones who fuss, tinker, and sweat the small stuff. Because you know the tiniest thing can make the biggest difference when it comes to keeping business moving. We get it. We're the same way, offering access to product experts to help you quickly and easily find what you need. So whatever your industry, you know you're always getting professional-grade products. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Calling all Utah locals. See the Southwest by rail on board Rocky Mountaineer. They've extended their latest offer until June 30th. Save up to $1,200 per couple. Visit RockyMountaineer.com to book.
Want to annihilate payroll problems? Wipe them out with Paycom. Paycom torches timesheet errors like a flamethrower. Whoa! Obliterates overtime blunders like a wrecking ball. Holy mackerel! And PTO problems? Paycom leaves them pulverized. Wow! Because with Paycom, employees do their own payroll right in the Paycom app. They find and fix errors before payroll submission, so HR can tackle important stuff, like performance incentives and retaining top producers, so your people can crush their goals. And with Paycom, employees enter and manage their own HR info, like onboarding, tax setup, and benefits enrollment. It's all in one powerful software with ironclad security. Stop doing that! Sick of HR and payroll headaches? Don't just eliminate them. Demolish them! At Paycom.com.
Wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind, like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest. Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Yeah, I'm so stressed. Our business is growing. We've got people all over now.
Ooma.
What is that? Meditation?
I'm recommending the Ooma cloud phone system with auto attendant and more than 50 features.
Ooma?
Yep, switching to Ooma is a cinch. Just $24.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Now you're feeling it. Find small business calm at ooma.com/radio. That's OOMA.com/radio.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union, helping members since 1935. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, construction is the big issue for Summit and Wasatch County drivers. US 40 is down to one lane, both northbound and southbound, between the north end of Jordanelle State Reservoir and also SR 248. But as you continue northbound trying to get toward I-80, you also have the ramp that's closed from US 40 to go west I-80 toward Salt Lake Valley. Other than that, you've got good speeds everywhere else you're trying to get to today. Utah's Family Fun Rodeo is back July 13th through 15th. The Ute Stampede at Juab County Fairgrounds. Rodeo starts at 8 nightly. Visit utestampederodeo.com, utestampederodeo.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we're looking for more of the afternoon thunderstorms across the state. They'll continue into next week. Our high today 84, tomorrow 87. Right now it's 70 degrees and sunny at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic. Dave and Dujanovic.
Here's a headline I just fell in love with from the Washington Examiner. Let the babies have their milk and drink it too. We're going to talk about some formula. You remember, formula, there was a shortage. Supply chain hit the craziest stuff that we never think about.
Right.
Toilet paper, baby formula. It just pops up and you realize this is not just a given, that this stuff doesn't just magically show up on our shelves.
And it takes sometimes some really crazy routes to get there, right? I mean, the complexity blew my mind when we started looking at why we're not seeing things on the shelf.
Senator Mike Lee and a bipartisan group of lawmakers have introduced the Formula 3.0 Act, which will permanently get rid of tariffs on many European formulas and made it easier for parents to buy those products. If you remember, when we were having that formula shortage, we were having a hard time accepting, I guess. We thought only our formula is good for our babies.
That's right.
The rest of the world, what you're using is so inferior.
Not good enough, and now it is. And, you know, I got to give Mike Lee some credit. He has stayed on this issue for a while now and has really led on putting away these tariffs, it's an interesting question too, because I wonder if, Dave, to your point of accepting other people's, like, this is a question of FDA, this is a question of standards for dairy and all other products, but this really opens it up, particularly to our friends in Europe.
Joining us right now is Kelly Pierce, used to work here at KSL as a producer, is now a digital media associate for the R Street Institute. Kelly, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I don't know how you became the de facto formula person in America, but I'll be honest, you are the go-to.
I don't know about that. I think there's a lot of people that have been speaking up through this crisis, but I think it's really important to talk about the need for a better supply of formula, because I don't know about you, but I've been in supermarkets. I was there a couple of days ago, and the shelves of formula, they're still not completely stocked. So something needs to be done, and it needs to change.
I agree. I mean, we're in a family where there's a standing order whenever we go to Costco. If there's formula, we are to buy it and bring it to the middle son. So start with the basics. Walk us through the basics of the Formula 3.0 Act. What is that?
So basically what it would do is, as you said, get rid of tariffs. And it's a kind of a long, complicated process, but what those tariffs essentially do is make it extremely difficult for a lot of European manufactured formulas to have shelf space in the United States, to be legally sold in the United States. What this law would do is permanently get rid of those tariffs, so more of those types of European formula can be on our shelves. These were the formulas, you'll remember, when we had the major shortage, was actually flown into the United States to shore up our supply.
What were some of the concerns about formulas coming from outside that weren't manufactured here in the United States? What were some of those concerns?
So there's a couple of different concerns here. One of them is the amount of iron. So there's a disagreement between a lot of scientists in the United States and in Europe about the proper amount of iron for. So iron is needed in formula for your baby's growing brain. However, the Europeans like to have a little bit less of it. It is a lot less constipating. There are babies who deal with gastrointestinal issues that really actually prefer it because it's a lot easier. So there's a disagreement there in terms of, will a lower amount of iron be detrimental to certain babies? But, you kind of look around in Europe and there's millions of babies using it and they're perfectly fine. The other issue is just kind of political. You have, pharmaceutical companies in the United States who make the majority of our formulas. They don't want competition. That makes tons of sense. You also have dairy lobbying against it because they think it's going to be hurting their farmers. And I want to be very clear about this. This isn't average farmers, because dairy farming is a very tough industry right now. But lobbyists want to have a market only for American formulas.
So is this, with this bill, is there still a shortage happening? Is this solving a current problem, or is this more insurance for the future?
So it is a couple of different things in our view. So it would help with, as we were talking about, shoring up some of the formula supply, right? Because as I said, when I was going into the supermarket a couple of days ago, the shelves weren't completely stocked. So it would actually shore up that supply, make sure that parents have formula. But there's also issues for families like mine, which my son was born with severe heartburn. And the American formulas, they were making that condition worse. They also made it so he couldn't be diagnosed for a couple of months. European formulas have a little bit more options and flexibility there. So kids with medical issues tolerate European formula a lot better than American ones.
You mentioned that this is a bipartisan group of lawmakers that have signed on to this. What's the appetite for this getting all the way through?
I can't predict the future, but I will say this. It's amazing how quickly thinking on this has really changed because of people speaking up, because of what happened, because it used to be, no, we're not even going to have this discussion. Now, even though there was a thriving black market for European formula, now people are starting to rethink things and go, maybe we should have some flexibility in our supply. After all, a lot of pediatricians stateside have no issue with their patients using European formulas, whether it's for medical conditions like my son or just because they support parental choice in this area. So I think there's a little bit more of an openness and a willingness to at least consider this, if not pass it.
The formula shortage started, I believe, back in 2021, and then even into 2022, early into the 2022 year, I think it was Abbott Nutrition had to recall some products because there was it a bacteria or something like this? Are they still recovering from these shortages?
So they say that everything is getting online, but there's been a few bumps in the road, right? The major one obviously was Abbott because they had that complaint, which, by the way, the government did not act on in a timely manner. So that facility was running while an active, serious complaint was lodged against it. And then, of course, when it closed, there was a huge supply shock. But there was also, I believe it was Gerber, too, that had an issue with their plant. So there was a little mini supply shortage going on in 2022. And I can remember, too, a coworker of mine, her little 3-month-old nephew, we were trying to find formula for him, people across the country, and we couldn't do it. Finally we found a substitute for him. So there's all of these little supply shocks that happen. And again, it's because our formula market is very closed off, and it doesn't allow for flexibility as well. I mean, you look at European formulas, just even how they're formulated, you can have different types of options where you can take out certain allergens or stomach irritants. We need to do that here in the United States.
Kelly Pierce, thank you for joining us, a digital media associate for R Street Institute, a former journalist here at KSL. Thank you for joining us. And Mara, I look at this and I was shocked. I had no idea how few people manufactured formula in America.
Right. And so if anything went wrong, as you suggested, with just one plant, it wiped out the supply.
It did. It devastated. And they were loading formula up onto C-130s and flying them across the ocean to help relieve. And it was a wild, and we forgot about it. I'll be honest, I completely forgot about it. But Senator Mike Lee has been sticking with it, trying to get this Formula 3.0 Act passed, has some support from from both the right and the left. We'll see if it continues making its way. Up next, the Bible. The Bible, the Davis School District is pulling the Bible from elementary and junior high schools. They get to leave them there in the high schools because there were complaints that it contained graphic content. So the Bible got yanked from elementary and junior high schools. We'll discuss, is that the right move, or was this just one of those protest complaints that someone had? Do you really have a problem with the Bible?
Dave and Dujanovic.
Hey, stay right here for more of Dave and Dujanovic.
And tomorrow morning, come back here for news, traffic updates, and reliable weather.
Join us to have a listen. Tim and Amanda.
Your morning companions for news.
Once the workday's a wrap.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
There's the drive home and a billion errands. Make KSL your co-pilot. Get breaking news, traffic updates, and Jeff Kaplan's unmistakable minute of news.
Twitter's little blue check mark is creating chaos. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has an identity problem. Are Utahns the hardest working people in America?
Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News, 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio. Your drive time companion for news.
Okay, today is Monday. I hope that on Friday you followed my advice, which was go get a free Frazzle. And you're like, what's a Frazzle? It's a slushie. So in the summer, it's hot, it's miserable. We want to cool down. Frazzle is a delicious slushie that I absolutely love. I go to the one at Maverick. There's all sorts of places that offer Frazzle. It's Maverick, Holiday Oil, Fast Stop, lots of places across Utah, Idaho, Nevada. But we're going to focus on Utah. So I go to the Maverick, and I love getting a slushie. The Frazzle is a great little flavor shot. I throw that in my Diet Mountain Dew. I don't know if you're supposed to do that, but I just love it. I love the flavors, but I like to fill it up. There's a pina colada that I'm absolutely over the moon about. It's delicious. Tons of sugar, tons of caffeine. You will be good for the day. So if you want to check it out, check out the free Frazzle Fridays the entire month of June. Go get a 12-ounce Frazzle drink. There's a limit to only one per customer. Yeah, you can't just load up all day on free Frazzles, though. You will enjoy it. Hope you enjoy it. Free Frazzle Fridays in June.
Our state's children face a serious threat from the vaping industry, but thanks to state leaders and the Utah Health Department, Utah established the strictest nicotine standards for vaping in the United States to protect our kids. However, the vaping industry sued, claiming their sales and profits are down. Now they're pushing the health department to hand control of vaping regulations to the federal government. We can't allow that to happen. The proposed change would automatically increase nicotine levels in vape pens and reintroduce fruity flavors that entice our kids back into Utah convenience stores. Visit StopKidsVaping.com today and make your voice heard. Utah should maintain state control, preserve our 3% nicotine limitations, and prevent vaping flavors from returning to Utah convenience stores. Together, we can secure a better future for our children. Join us at StopKidsVaping.com and tell the health department, protect our kids.
Paid for by Prosperous Utah Communities.
Here's what happens when you get brand new custom vinyl windows from Advanced Window Products. All of a sudden, your house has more curb appeal. Your home is more secure. Your heating and air conditioning bills tumble, and you have a local company in business 37 years standing behind their work for life. But that's not all. Since they build your custom windows at their facility in Salt Lake, there's no middleman markup. So you can save money on the highest quality windows on the market. Argon-filled double pane glass. Insulation within the vinyl framing. Top of the line, built to spec. They will create magnificent bow windows, doggy doors cut into the glass. Any color, it's all custom, all installed by their team, and every window is guaranteed for life. Rocky Mountain and Dominion offer rebates. Advanced Windows offers 60-month 0% financing, and right now, save $2,000 on 10 windows or more. So save now, pay later. Call Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or visit advancedwindowsusa.com.
As a roofer, I don't have time to fail. Homeowners rely on me, so I rely on Beacon. Beacon's unique network of branches work together to get me what I need when I need it. Every branch working together. And with the new Beacon Pro Plus app, I've got the brands I depend on, like GAF, right at my fingertips. Now through June, purchase online with Beacon Pro Plus, web or app, and earn up to $1,500. Beacon, always building.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, former Vice President Mike Pence has filed the official paperwork to run for president. Second, Salt Lake City police trying to locate a suspect in a fatal shooting downtown yesterday. Third, men drowned over the weekend at Palisades State Park. And right now, it's 70 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
I want to tell you, this is my school district. The Davis School District, Mara. By the way, Mara Carabello filling in for Debbie Dujanovic today. Exoro Group is your full-time job. KSL at night, that's your side hustle.
That's my side hustle. Exactly right.
And we love that it's your side hustle. But, yeah, full disclosure, Davis School District, my kids all go there. My wife works in the Davis School District. Mara, I am so connected with the Davis School District. I went to school in the Davis School District like 400 years ago.
Wow.
So, by the way, my dad, Davis School District.
Okay.
So we are long timers.
You are the Davis School District.
I don't want to say legacy family. You can say legacy family. But yeah, we've been around for a long time. So
you all have had a busy couple of years.
Oh, we are, man, I would love to just be out of the news for 5 minutes.
Yeah. It's been a rough go a little bit.
It has. Now this one, I will say, shocks me as much as anything, because growing up in the community, having family work there, I'm telling you, I was shocked. Of all the school districts in Utah, that it was the Davis School District that pulled the Bible from elementary and junior high schools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did not see that one coming.
Yeah. Yeah. So they pulled it. They pulled it based on a criteria that had been given to them by the state, because the state legislature has decided that we should ban books in schools, to just give you a little cheekiness about which side of the issue I am on. So they decided to ban books. There's a criteria, and the committee that was assigned to read the criteria deemed, in fact, that while they didn't totally agree, they did say, hey, listen, for grade school and junior high, we're going to pull it based on its shocking content.
Okay, KSL News Radio's Amy Kobabe joins us right now. Amy, bring us up to speed. What happened?
So they deemed this committee that it was vulgar and violent. Those were the two words specifically that they came out with for elementary and junior high school age students. And the Davis School District says that it was in just a handful of school libraries. So this wasn't, across the district in every single school, but enough that it was pulled. And then the latest now is that they've got an appeal that another committee will have to look at, but they also now have to review the Book of Mormon. So a complaint came late last week. On Friday, we learned from the district that another parent has complained against the Book of Mormon, but they haven't said, the district, we've sent in a grammar request to understand, why, and the district hasn't said exactly what the complaint, whether it was violence, vulgarity, what the complaint was against, just that it was the Book of Mormon as well.
Was it specific passages, or was it the Bible in its entirety?
So that's a really good question. As far as the criteria that the Utah state legislature has laid out, the bill that passed in 2022, it doesn't have to be the entire book. It just has to be if there is a segment that is sexually explicit, if there is, a line or two that is vulgar or has any kind of reference to violence or anything like that, they can look just at that passage, and they don't have to look at the whole book. For example, you have the Diary of Anne Frank that a lot of people have raised concerns across the board, across the country for years about, because there's some human sexuality that's discussed. But they see the book itself as redeemable because of the entirety of the book. And in Utah, that it doesn't have to be looked at. You don't have to look at the entirety of the book. So we do understand that it was just certain passages in the Bible that were seen as vulgar and violent. And it took them 6 months to come to this conclusion, but that is the conclusion that they came to.
Just to be clear, this was not a book that the Bible wasn't in necessarily a lot of different elementary and junior high schools, you say?
No, they say about 6 schools is what it was pulled from. And they have an appeal, and if the appeal goes through, so that it would eventually go up to the state board of, or not the state, the Davis School District Board of Education, and they will review this appeal, and if they decide, they could put the book back on school shelves.
Amy Kobabe, thank you for joining us, KSL News Radio reporter in Mora. Okay. Can we not laugh at it? Like, they banned the Bible. Like, of all the books out there that I expected to be banned, the Bible, not on the list.
Wasn't one of them, although, again, it meets the criteria, right? I mean, don't make me read the list. Incest, bestiality, prostitution, genital mutilation. I mean, it's got a lot going on in there. Now, what this discussion brings up is the defenders would say, hey, come on, this lacks context. This is a religious text that is using those as examples of moral stories, right? Yeah. But I think that's the problem with deeming book banning, is that it often lacks the context.
Okay, so the book banning conversation is so fascinating because it's way more nuanced than what we want to make it.
Yeah,
we want to boil it down to, are we banning books? Well, nobody is for banning books, right?
Right.
But when you, in the same survey, say, do you want elementary, junior high school kids to have access to sexually explicit books?
Right.
Nobody agrees on that as well.
Right.
They don't need Playboys,
that's right,
to learn human anatomy.
That's right.
Even though someone may be able to make that, argument, right? So in the same conversation that we're saying, no, I don't want books banned, but at the same time, I do believe there are age-appropriate books out there.
Right.
That's a tough line to walk,
Yeah, so this is my hang-up, though, with it being legislation. It's just that. I don't believe there's anybody, normal person, that wants kids to have access to material that is inappropriate. I don't think there's anybody that wants to ban books. I agree with you. But I ask the question of then, well, who should be the arbiter of that decision? Now, the legislation says an individual parent, which is what happened with the Bible here, frankly.
Yeah.
You got a cheeky parent saying, okay, fine, you want to do this? All right, let's talk about the Bible. And ran it through the criteria. But my preference is to have it be professionals. There are professionals who decide what's age appropriate, and they're educators. They decide the curriculum. For years, our school system, you have to go to school. You get trained on the young mind and what is and isn't appropriate. I would rather lean heavier and respect the professionalism of educators than have it be sort of a political democratic process where we vote on what we think is appropriate or not.
Which is a little bit what it is turned into. In fact, if you want to challenge a book right now, you go to the Davis School District website.
Yeah.
There's a form that you can click on. You can name the book. You can put your reasonings behind it. It's fairly easy. And the Davis School District, we talked to them a couple months ago when this first started bubbling up, this idea of banning the Bible. They said they've had dozens of books that have been challenged, that they've had to go through and read and make a determination of whether or not they should belong in this school library.
Right. And was this building the school system? Was this, I don't know, I'm asking because it isn't as black and white. And one thing I do like about this law is that the individual district decides. So if Davis County decides this for their kids, you might see San Juan County making another decision.
Well, you start banning scriptural text. It is, and you just heard from Amy Kobabe. She said now the Book of Mormon has been challenged. You've got the Bible. You've got the Book of Mormon. Is all scriptural text going to be banned? Is it just the New Testament? Is the Old Testament?
Right.
Is the Quran?
Right.
Is it anything? There's so many books that could be included because you read and sure I've read the Bible, and it does have all these things. It has incest. It has infanticide. It has prostitution. It has all these things. But is it pornographic? And that's ultimately what the law says. Is it pornographic? The hard thing is we've never been able to define what pornography is.
Right. And again, I'm going to stay team teacher and say I would rather have people who have gone to school, studied the issue, study age-appropriate material making this decision. But it's a tough one.
It is. It's far more nuanced, I think, than we like to make it.
That's right.
And again, my own personal belief, maybe it's genuine, but it does feel like a protest vote. It was like, well, you're banning these books. Well, how about your Bible?
Well, I think
it
for
feels
me,
like that.
It does. I agree. The word I would use, though, it's an illustration of the faultiness of the legislation.
All right. When we come back, let's talk milk. Milk and the dairy farmers. First of all, I don't know how you guys choke down almond milk. That is beyond me. Maybe there's something to this, but let's talk about the dairy farmers next.
It's 10:31 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. Utah's likely pick to be the first ever Great Salt Lake Commissioner has a hearing before Utah's State Senate Natural Resources Committee this morning. Brian Steed says he's hoping to bridge the competing needs of industry and other groups who use the lake's resources.
For a long time, people really did view any water that reached the Great Salt Lake as lost water. We now know that thinking has to change, and we have to find a way to make sure that we can maintain the lake at a healthy level.
He still needs full state Senate confirmation. Then he has to come up with a strategic plan for the lake by November. We're hearing now from a judge that the murder trial for Chad Daybell will start April 1st next year, run through the end of May. Daybell's trial will be held at the Ada County Courthouse in Boise, where his wife Lori was found guilty of murder last month. Daybell's up against murder charges in connection with the deaths of his first wife, Tammy, and his wife, Lori's 2 children, JJ and Tylee. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Harry's back at it again this week in court in Britain in a case against the publisher of the Daily Mirror. More from ABC's Tom Rivers in London.
Already on day one, Harry's annoyed Judge Timothy Fancourt, who instructed him to be in court at the start of proceedings. The prince's lawyer said Harry wouldn't be there today as he had recently arrived on a flight from L.A. The case is the first of the prince's several lawsuits against the media to go to trial, and one of 3 alleging tabloid publishers unlawfully snooped on him in their cutthroat quest of securing exclusive stories. Tom Rivers, ABC News, London.
Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down now 52 points on the day so far. The NASDAQ, though, is up 76 points. And our KSL weather, sunshine this morning and that thunderstorm in the afternoon. That's next. KSL News Time, 10:33.
This summer, the political season heats up.
By August, it'll be time for debates. Can you believe it?
We're planning coverage of the real issues, the important stories that impact how we live.
Listen each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
If you want to lose the weight and really keep it off, we're going to direct you to Soda Weight Loss. This is not an appetite suppressant. This is not some kind of pill that you'll have to take for the rest of your life. This is not a workout routine that requires you to be at the gym for 2 hours, 7 days a week. This is the science of eating smart. They're going to give you the program. I just followed the program. I mean, I didn't do anything spectacular. I just did what they said. And in 3 months, I had lost 34 pounds. Now, a year and a half later, I've kept it off because I have the support of my nutritionist for the rest of my life if I want.
Yeah. How many times have we said it will change the way you look at food? They really teach you how to eat better so you stay nutritionally well along with feeling well. And my daughter lost 42 pounds on this program, feels better about herself, and then, of course, you feel better about everything else in the world, right? Go to sodaweightloss.com and find out more. It's spelled SOTA. Just think Tim and Amanda. And as we always like to say, Soda Weight Loss is state of the art.
This is Jeff Stout with Fink and McGregor Mortgages Made Simple. FHA has announced a significant reduction in mortgage insurance rates. This can be a game changer for some people. FHA rates are typically lower than conventional mortgage rates. Combine this with lower mortgage insurance and FHA is worth a look. FHA is especially attractive for low down payment, cash out, or credit issues. You don't have to be a first-time home buyer and you can refinance into or out of an FHA loan. Another attractive feature of an FHA loan is the ability to streamline refinance when rates come down. No appraisal needed, limited documentation, and low cost helps you lower your payment with minimal fuss. Call us today. Fink and McGregor, Mortgages Made Simple, 801-264-9494. That's 264-9494. Or on the web at finkmcgregor.com. NMLS 289115.
Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning have an exciting offer that's literally going to give you some well-deserved free time. Zero Res is partnered with Unload, Utah's premier valet laundry and dry cleaning service for busy individuals, families, and businesses. And this Monday and Tuesday, they have a special gift for you. Schedule your carpet cleaning right now and get your first 4 rooms of carpet cleaned for just $99 and a free valet laundry service from Unload. Dirt, dust, dander, and allergens don't stand a chance. So if the spring pollen is starting to catch you, or maybe it's just time for a regular cleaning, make the call today. No other company can offer you the same no-residue cleaning, combined with tile, upholstery, and air ducts too. With Zero Res, it truly is a whole home cleaning. Make time for what matters most with Zero Res and Unload. 4 rooms cleaned for $99 and a free service from Unload. Call for details and restrictions. Limited time offer ending on June 6th or after the first 100 customers. For more, visit ZeroRes.com. ZeroRes.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Granite Credit Union, helping members since 1935. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, Dan, we don't have any accidents to report across the Wasatch Front, but construction is going to affect you pretty much anywhere you want to go, including on US 89 in Davis County, the I-215 East Belt in Salt Lake Valley, and US 40, which is hard hit right now, down to 1 lane, both directions between Jordanelle Reservoir and the turnoff to Park City, as well as a closure from US 40 to go westbound I-80. The Utah Symphony's Deer Valley Music Festival in Park City features Ben Folds, Leanne Rimes, the Beach Boys, and more. June 30th through August 4th in Park City. DeerValleyMusicFestival.org. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we're looking for more of the afternoon thunderstorms across the state. They'll continue into next week. Our high today, 84, 87 tomorrow. And right now, 71 degrees and sunny, or 74 degrees and sunny at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic.
I love milk so much. I love milk. You know the Got Milk commercials?
Right.
Spoke to my soul.
Really? You did.
Oh, man.
You tear up when you see
I do.
one of
I
those.
do. I'm like, you are a good cow. You produce that milk. I love you.
How much do you go through? What are you talking about here?
I've got 3 boys. We'd go through at least a gallon a day.
Whoa.
Yeah. And when I was growing up, my dad and I, we'd polish off a gallon a day just between the two of us. Like, that was my drink of choice.
Wow.
Before it was Diet Coke. It was milk.
Wow.
If you took out Diet Coke and milk out of my diet right now, I would not consume any beverage whatsoever. What about water, Dave? I stand by what I said. I drink
just
2
a
things.
byproduct of other stuff, right?
Oh, but okay. Hugo Ricard Bell joins us right now, KSL News Radio reporter. Hugo, you've done some fantastic reporting on the dairy industry here in Utah. What did you find?
Well, I also like milk, but basically dairy in general, and it has been for a little bit, for a lot of different reasons. We were talking about the new nut milks that are coming in and just sort of, labor shortages and all that sort of stuff has been contributing. But what I found, dairy industry is doing it tough, and they're struggling. And I actually travelled out to a dairy farm in Ogden and spoke to Ron Gibson, and he just gave me an idea of just how much he's losing this year.
We were getting somewhere between $24 and $25 for our milk, and 100 pounds. For 100 pounds of milk, we get $24 or $25. This year, it looks like we're going to get somewhere between 15 and 17. So that's a 40% decrease in income for us, and our costs haven't dropped a bit.
And why the huge drop?
Well, I mean, that's the really interesting thing. So we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of geopolitics here, Dave, if that's okay.
We're in.
I think everyone by now is aware that there's some pretty strong tensions between China and the US. Just the naval ship stuff that we talked about this morning on the morning news. But one of the things that isn't discussed a lot of is something called economic warfare. Now, I will preface this with saying there's no genuine there never is, but there's no genuine confirmation that is what's happening here. But economic warfare is basically countries who trade a lot together can flex their muscles and squeeze on certain products. So in other words, in this example, we trade powdered milk to China. It's not a huge chunk of our industry, but it's enough that if they stop trading with us, which they have recently in milk, they haven't completely cut it off zero, but they've substantially decreased the amount of milk that we're sending over to them. It can cause, a surplus of supply back here, because suddenly where do we send it? And so it comes back onto the domestic market, which plummets the cost. And that's what economic warfare is basically, and that's sort of the term. Now, it's a pretty intense term. It could be for a number of reasons that doing. I actually spoke to the World Trade Center. I've got a little clip here for you.
Could be that China is starting to view the United States as an unreliable trading partner, and at any minute they could lose the supply of critical things or important things, and so they may be just slowly shifting away.
This happens. Countries do this all the time. I mean, China is actually, just before moving here, one of the things I reported on a lot in Australia was some of the tariffs that they put on us when it came to things like barley and wine and beef. And that came pretty quickly after we supported a US investigation into how COVID was started. So it's little things like that, and it just seems the reason why I looked into it is because it seemed coincidental that we were seeing such a decline in 2023, and we'd had all the things like the spy balloon getting shot down over Montana, and just little things like that. So that's why we looked into it.
So Hugo, in your conversations, one of the things that has been a part of Utah's conversation is that we've sent several trade delegations, right, to China. We've had a pretty strong relationship both through the World Trade Center but also through the governor's office to try and have direct, particularly import-export relationships with China. What's the relationship then between general American policy and can a state sort of build a better relationship despite the larger U.S. policy?
Yes, that's a tricky question for me. But what I can tell you is, you're right. Utah's got a strong relationship, and there's a lot of manufacturing that happens in China, and that's why we're seeing this squeeze on dairy because dairy China can get elsewhere,
right?
From close relationships. So it's not a big deal for China to be like, well, we don't need the dairy from the US because we'll just go somewhere like New Zealand. That's the whole purpose of free trade. And New Zealand's got a huge powdered milk industry as well. As far as federal to state level, I did speak to Governor Cox a little bit the other week about what the trade relationship with China is at the moment. And he was pretty open about saying, they are actively looking at other places as a backup or other places to trade, places like Mexico and that sort of thing, and Indonesia and Vietnam, to sort of take that pressure off because we are very intertwined with China, and obviously with tensions rising, you need to have that certainty, particularly with major commodities.
Hugo Ricard-Bell, great reporting. In fact, you can find the full report on KSLNewsRadio.com. One of the things, a final thought that really stood out to me in your reporting was just 30 years ago, we had around 500 or so dairy farms. And right now in the state, how many are there?
There's
100-ish?
Just over 100, yeah. But, this is, again, the China thing, that's what we do in reporting. We look at something niche and try and figure out what that reason is. There are a number of reasons why agricultural commodities are going down. COVID had a big impact on labour shortages and that sort of thing. So some farms aren't even operating to full capacity. That's something else we're looking into at KSL at the moment.
Hugo Ricard-Bell, thank you for joining us. When we come back, 1 in 3 employed Americans are worried about job security, according to Bankrate's job seeker survey. But that new analysis shows they're also the ones most likely to make career moves. So you may not feel great with the job security, but you're also not afraid to make a career move. We'll talk about that next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Did you know Utah has just one all-news station in the morning?
It's this one. Weekday mornings between 5 and 9.
Start your days with us. We're Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Your morning companions for news.
Get updates on Jazz and BYU news and score updates. Text Jazz or BYU at the Cyprus Credit Union KSL text line, 57500.
Your home is the place where you know your loved ones are secure. But the things that keep your home protected can't keep pests at bay. That's where RAID comes in. For 60 years, RAID scientists have worked to protect people around the world with trusted research, ingredients, testing standards, and product efficacy. RAID seeks to create a better future for all, especially the ones you love most. RAID, protection for all.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
1973.
Attention all Murray High School graduates of 1973. It's time for your 50th reunion. Yes, 50 years. Where's the time gone? The excitement to see you is overflowing with a great lineup of activities. Starting August 18th, it's a golf tournament at Mick Riley Golf Course in Murray. Shotgun start at 11 a.m. The cost is $33 for 9 holes, including cart. RSVP by August 1st to michael.romero10@gmail.com. The MAG Girls Luncheon gets hopping at Murray Park Pavilion number 4 at 12 noon. Bring your own lunch, drinks, and desserts will be provided. Then top off your reunion August 19th at the Salt Lake Marriott University Park Hotel, 480 Wacara Way. Registration and hors d'oeuvres starting at 6 p.m. Dinner served at 7. The cost is $70 pre-registration until July 28th, or register for $75 the day of the event. Contact Linda Matson at lindajmatson@hotmail.com to register today.
Introducing Yes Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. We're bringing all of Utah's favorite HVAC, plumbing, and electrical brands under one roof. The same people you know and trust, providing Utah with the same great service you've counted on for more than 45 years. We're even throwing in a great offer for you. Say yes and beat the summer heat with our $49 tune-up special. For all your heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical needs, you can always count on Yes. Visit theyesmancan.com to schedule your appointment.
This is Jeff Stout with Fink and McGregor Mortgages Made Simple. FHA has announced a significant reduction in mortgage insurance rates. This can be a game changer for some people. FHA rates are typically lower than conventional mortgage rates. Combine this with lower mortgage insurance and FHA is worth a look. FHA is especially attractive for low down payment, cash out, or credit issues. You don't have to be a first-time home buyer and you can refinance into or out of an FHA loan. Another attractive feature of an FHA loan is the ability to streamline refinance when rates come down. No appraisal needed, limited documentation, and low cost helps you lower your payment with minimal fuss. Call us today. Fink and McGregor Mortgages Made Simple, 801-264-9494. That's 264-9494. Or on the web at finkmcgregor.com. NMLS 289115.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the confirmation hearing for the new Great Salt Lake Commissioner underway at Utah's state capitol. Second, the judge who presided over Lori Vallow Daybell's case has set a trial date now for her husband, Chad. It'll start April 1st next year. Third, His Royal Highness Prince Harry wasn't there for the opening day of testimony in his lawsuit against the London tabloids. Right now, 74 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Are you worried about your job security? Well, 1 in 3 employed Americans, according to Bankrate, say, yeah, I'm worried about it. I'm worried about whether or not I'm going to have a job or I'm going to get let go. But this new analysis shows that those folks that are worried about their job security, they're also the most likely to make career moves. Mara Carabello is filling in for Debbie Dujanovic today. And Mara, you're a boss. You employ folks.
Yeah, so I've owned a small business for over 20 years now. And I tell you, we are in a different time. People don't stay in places as long as they used to. That's very common for even, responsible, let's say, employees to think about moving. Utah, boy, have we been so darn lucky that we've had really low unemployment for quite a while. We've got lots of diversity in our industries. So I think we're a little used to it. And then you've got this story right at the heels of COVID, where everybody needed employees. Like we've had a couple of years where it was just impossible to hire people because everyone was hiring people.
I know this might be anecdotal just to your experience, but how much of this is a generational thing? I'm Gen X. Gen X is kind of known to stick where they're at. They don't leave their job until they get escorted out by security. Like we stay until the key card no longer works.
That's right.
But the millennials, they are much more prone to up and leave.
Yeah, up and leave, not give as long of a time in transition, be kind of a surprise that there's an expectation of sort of loyalty. And I mean almost fealty, right? Like we believe, you and I are pledging our loyalty for better or worse in some instances. Right. I don't think that exists as much in the marketplace of at least the younger people that I've worked with.
Sarah Foster joins us from Bankrate, an analyst there. Are these career moves, are they stemmed by anxiety? Like it feels like the guillotine is just hovering over them, so they leave before they can get broken up with? How does this work?
Well, great to be here. And I think what I'd first say is that a lot of workers have really been told for multiple years now that they're kind of on the precipice of another recession. Strap in for a loss of historic career opportunities. You might not have as much bargaining power, but that recession that has been so long foreseen has seemingly yet to also arrive. And so when you look at these Americans who are worried about their job security, they might be saying, hey, this could be the last call to really hop in and advocate for some of the things that I want.
So when you have been doing this research, is it really segment specific? Is there a part that's, whether it's hospitality or whether that is desk jobs or whether that is jobs where people want flexibility? Is this a kind of a job or is it across the market?
Well, it is interesting to look at some of the differences between industries because obviously we've had this real tale of two labor markets where those service sector jobs, businesses in those sectors are obviously still seeing labor shortages, and people there are also seeing the biggest pay gains for switching jobs. But I think, at the same time, you're also kind of seeing that these white-collar, traditional tech jobs, those are the ones that are most at risk. And while at Bankrate we didn't really pull people based on their industry, I think that those differing kind of experiences could be at the heart of it, where especially those Americans who've been taking advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime kind of labor market to negotiate for higher pay or even ask for more flexibility, they don't want to really let go of that.
Yeah, and no question, I think when you're moving from job to job, the best way to get a pay raise is to move. You might get little bumps in the career that you're in or the company that you're with, but moving, it's almost like taking a home run swing. You take a big old cut to see if you can get a big boost. But what advice do you have for people that may be worried about a recession interrupting these career goals?
Yeah. And I think, it's interesting because even in records dating back to 1998 from the Atlanta Fed's wage growth tracker, we've seen that those who switch jobs, they're more likely to reap greater pay gains than those who've stayed in their positions. And so since it's going back to even before, the coronavirus pandemic or the Great Recession, I think what that shows is that this is kind of a longer run trend that occurs absent of recessions. And so I think the best advice I would give for job seekers worried about a recession is know that you can still pursue your career goals during a recession, that a recession doesn't have to interrupt it. Granted, it might make job switching, negotiating a little bit harder. But if you're a top candidate who's continued to demonstrate the value that you bring to your company, you're always going to be in demand. And frankly, you'll likely even find job opportunities regardless of what the economy is like.
So it sounds like, Sarah, that you would agree that hunting for a job or making sure you're taking care of yourself and what's next is the way to go about your career.
Absolutely. And I think when doing that research, really pay attention to what's going on in the broader economy. I think one thing that's been interesting about this current environment is that layoffs, kind of the job seeker experience, that's all been it's been a social one. We can log on to LinkedIn and see everyday different types of, experiences that workers are having. And so when you're trying to figure out maybe is this opportunity something to pursue, looking into whether those companies have already laid off workers is a great place to start. And because we are seeing this information kind of easily at our fingertips through sites like LinkedIn, it might be even easier to do that research.
Right. Sarah Foster, Bankrate analyst, thanks for joining us today.
For having me.
I wonder how much, Maura, and again, as an employer yourself, I am concerned that my boss, bosses, that whenever I go in and I ask for a raise, I always get the same thing. I was like, well, it's a really tough situation for the company. I mean, we're really tight. The budget is, we are so behind on budget. Listen, I want the company to do well and I don't want my salary to tank the entire company. I understand that it's a mutual, it's a relationship here. It's a symbiotic relationship. Right? I've got to do what's best for me, but at the same time, you've got to make money too. I understand.
Yeah, but you bring up a point that's interesting. I do think it's like different math sometimes. Figuring out the raises and cost of living and increases feels slightly like a different question than, oh, we're going to grow and what do I need to get a new person to come in is almost a product more of the market, where when I'm looking at giving you a raise, I have a starting point, right? And how much higher do I go? It's an interesting thing.
Well, and part of what it has been such a competitive market for the last couple of years, and we see unemployment is a little over 2.5%, very, very low unemployment rates. There's a lot of demand. But again, there's this impending recession, where we can sense it, we can feel it. We feel like we're in a recession in many ways.
Right.
With the inflation, the price of gas and food, all these things. We feel like we're in a recession, even though if we're not technically in a recession.
Yeah, the other dynamic we didn't talk much about, but I think we will in the future, is the gender roles. Women have entered the workforce. We're finally back up to pre-pandemic levels. There's almost 50 million women in the workforce. Women take different jobs. They have different priorities sometimes. And what does it mean if you move up or change jobs versus your gender? I don't know, but it's another interesting aspect.
Yeah, and when you look at the numbers where what was it, 1 in 3 people
right.
employed Americans, right? It says folks that have jobs right now, 1 in 3 are nervous about their job security. And I don't know if it's felt like it's been too good for too long, that the guillotine is just kind of like floating over our heads. But that's a lot of job insecurity.
Yes, it was high for me, particularly since times have been so good.
All right. When we come back, Boyd Matheson joins us from Inside Sources. Former Vice President Mike Pence expected to officially run for president in 2024. He recently had an exclusive sit-down with the former vice president. We'll talk to Boyd next.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen on the KSL News Radio app and in your car at 102.7 FM. KSL News Radio, Utah's all-day companion for news.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top story this hour: a man drowned over the weekend at Palisades State Park in San Pete County. David Chavez with Utah's State Parks says Alejandro Morales was swimming at the park when some bad weather passed through the area.
Nearby swimmers and paddleboarders and people like that started, helping out some other struggling swimmers, but they didn't make it over to Morales.
Morales was rescued from 15 to 20 feet of water and taken to the hospital, where he passed away. A man is dead. A woman was hurt in a motorcycle crash in Murray last night. The two were riding the bike when they crashed into a car at 45th South and State Street. The man on the bike died at the scene. The woman is in critical condition now. The driver of the car stayed at the scene and is cooperating with police. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Former Vice President Mike Pence has filed the official paperwork to become a candidate for president. He's planning an announcement later this week in Iowa, and he joins a crowded field that includes his old boss, Donald Trump, along with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Your money at this moment: the Dow Jones average down 48 points on the day after a strong up day on Friday. The NASDAQ, though, is up 89 points right now. And our KSL weather: that afternoon thunderstorm is waiting for us again. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
Early mornings can be hard enough, just getting yourself going.
We try to make it a little easier with news and weather from comfortable, trusted anchors and reporters.
Join us on Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9
on KSL News Radio.
Our state's children face a serious threat from the vaping industry, but thanks to state leaders and the Utah Health Department, Utah established the strictest nicotine standards for vaping in the United States to protect our kids. However, the vaping industry sued, claiming their sales and profits are down. Now they're pushing the Health Department to hand control of vaping regulations to the federal government. We can't allow that to happen. The proposed change would automatically increase nicotine levels in vape pens and reintroduce fruity flavors flavors that entice our kids back into Utah convenience stores. Visit StopKidsVaping.com today and make your voice heard. Utah should maintain state control, preserve our 3% nicotine limitations, and prevent vaping flavors from returning to Utah convenience stores. Together, we can secure a better future for our children. Join us at StopKidsVaping.com and tell the health department, protect our kids.
Paid for by Prosperous Utah Communities.
Progressive protects more than just your home and car. You could save when you bundle your motorcycles, ATVs, boats, and RVs. Doesn't that sound good? Like the sound of your boat cruising along the Intercoastal. And there's the sound of the prop hitting a really big rock. And now the sound of waves, because the engine stopped. But you know what does sound good? You're covered with Progressive. So bundle all your vehicles and home in one place and save with the multi-policy discount. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers.
If you've got a honey-do list with electrical, plumbing, heating, or air conditioning projects on it, Any Hour Services can help. Call Any Hour Services, electrical, plumbing, heating, and air. anyhourservices.com.
At KSL News Radio, we have a 30-year legacy of honoring Utah teachers, but we can't do it without your help. Please tell us about an important teacher in your life on the KSL Teacher Tribute Wall, presented by Cypress Credit Union. Each month, one lucky teacher wins a $500 gift card from Cypress Credit Union, a $250 gift card to Harmon's, plus season tickets to Hale Center Theater. Say thanks to your teacher today at kslnewsradio.com/teacher from Cypress Credit Union and KSL News Radio.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union, helping members since 1935. Here's Ricky Meeks.
Extrication units called to a crash on Redwood Road, just south of 106 South. On I-15, two crashes, both on the southbound side, one in Salt Lake County, about 3300 South to the right, and a new one southbound I-15 in Davis County near the Center Street exit ramp to the shoulder. Cedar City, where summer meets adventure. Enjoy live entertainment with the Shakespeare Festival, shopping, dining, museums, hiking, biking, disc golf, and camping under a starry sky. Level up your adventure. Visit cedarcity.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
We're in that same pattern where we've been for a week or more, with thunderstorms in the afternoon and sunshine in the morning. They'll continue into next week. Our high today 84, tomorrow 87. And right now, it's 75 degrees and sunny at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic have inside sources.
I guess timing is everything, right? When to do something. Well, former Vice President Mike Pence, he finally wants to do it. He's filed the paperwork to run for president of the United States in 2024. And one of the weirdest things that I can remember, he's challenging the former president whom he served under, Boyd Matheson. Welcome to the show. This is pretty wild. Mike Pence, Donald Trump, going to be on the same stage going after each other when they both served in the last administration.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. And of course, there's always been very interesting relationships between vice presidents and presidents. And often you'll have a vice president who might feel marginalized, may not feel like they have the right portfolio, and often they end up running the following cycle. And so there's always this interesting tension between a vice president and a president. And sometimes they ran against each other beforehand. So. Yeah. Joe Biden, Barack Obama ran against each other. You had Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush. And so you have a lot of that where there is that natural tension anyway.
Kamala Harris right now.
That's right. And so, there's clearly always tensions between those two offices. And so I think this shouldn't be as surprising as we might think it is. But it will be very interesting in terms of how the former vice president goes after a run for the presidency.
What do you see from Mike Pence? Because you spoke to him recently, had an opportunity to sit down with him, and you asked him questions, and he was very eloquent in the sense that when he was talking about the characteristics of a good leader. That's an important thing for him and a common theme you'd hear from him.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the things that is most interesting about the former vice president, in my sit down with him, the word that he kept coming back to in the decision-making process was a sense of duty. And in a very interesting way, because it wasn't like, oh, I'm the most qualified in the room, so of course it's my duty to run, for the highest office in the land. It was a sense of duty not to win the presidency. It was a sense of duty to have a conversation and to influence the conversation about the presidency. And so I think you are going to hear a lot about leadership. You're going to hear a lot about integrity. You're going to hear a lot about those values that he feels are the core bedrock pieces of our society and the country. And so, again, I don't think he's going in saying, hey, I've been tapped on the shoulder. I'm supposed to win this thing. Of course, he'll run to win. I think his biggest impact on this is going to be at the beginning in terms of how he shapes the conversation, because who shapes and frames the conversation is a big deal. It's one of the reasons I always tell people, if you're in a company and a job opening comes up, even if you don't think you're qualified for it, or if you're not the person, if you're not the girl or the guy that should be in that role, still apply anyway and shape the conversation, shape what they're going to look for. And I think that's part of what you'll see from the former vice president early in this, is he will be trying to shape a different kind of conversation when it comes to the politics.
That brings to mind that maybe this is, I sort of felt like his getting in was a departure from where he had been. But now listening to you say that, it's almost a continuation, because I would suggest that one of the roles that he was matched with Trump is to temper Trump and to make it more serious and to make it about policy, and certainly to make it someone in the game who was above the fray from a moral character point of view. I mean, that was sort of the matchup that we saw when Pence was brought into the Trump world. And as you say that, then it feels like he may be still, with a very deep understanding of Donald Trump, he still feels like there's a necessary role for someone bringing to the people that discussion instead of, contrarily, letting Donald Trump frame the debate, as we would say.
Yeah, that's why Mara gets the big money. She just analyzed it perfectly in terms of what that is and what that actually, I think, will look like on a debate stage or in campaign ads and so on. It will be that whether you like Mike Pence or don't like Mike Pence, the thing you cannot question about Mike Pence is his commitment to the country and to the institutions of government. And we clearly saw that on January 6th. We clearly saw that in the role that he played in making sure that the constitutional republic rolled on just hours after all the horrifics of January 6th. I still maintain the most important moment of that entire day was when Mike Pence pounded the gavel and they continued counting the vote. And that was no easy thing. I mean, his family was there. I mean, we talked about that when we sat down with him. His family being there, the threats that were being laid against him by those that broke into the Capitol. And it is this underlying sense of duty that this matters. And personally, I find that refreshing in today's politics.
There's something you mentioned there where you were talking about, do I like Mike Pence, do I not? There's a likability factor, and there's a likability conversation that's going on right now, I think, in the nation, and specifically with the GOP primary of, do I like this guy? Is this a nice guy? Is this someone that I could, have a conversation with? I, for a long time, have been, I do not care how likable a person is. I want to know how competent they are. Yeah. Can they do the job? But that being said, I'm just one vote. Let's talk about likability, though, with Mike Pence. Is he likable enough?
In a media world, in a social media world in particular, I think that is a challenging component to it. He's not the backslapping, gregarious kind of candidate that a lot of people long for. He's also not the bat crazy variety either. He's not going to go on national cable news and say crazy stuff to get attention. And so to me, it'll be much more a question. Remember, we often talk about you get what you pay for. You also pay for what you get. And I think Mike Pence's candidacy and how much traction it gets will be much more a reflection of the country than it is a driving of the country. It'll be much more reflective of, are we ready to go back to different kinds of conversations in our politics, or do we still want this performative stuff that we've had over the last decade?
Yeah, and I mean, that's what I keep pondering. The mirror, I've long felt, and we complain a lot about our politicians, but without exception, they are reflections. That's what's so intriguing about politics, is that we can protest, but they really do reflect where our values are. And Dave, I'm seeing fewer people, though, that are focused on substance over style. We have been a style-based selection committee for several cycles right now, several elections.
How do we break that?
I think it's reframing the conversation, and I think the messages. So if we're looking at the Republican side of the aisle, if you look at the messages that you're going to hear from a Mike Pence or a Tim Scott, I thought Nikki Haley performed incredibly well on CNN Town Hall last night, and they're all kind of going at it back to more traditional, policy-focused, principle-centric kind of politics. And so will the country reflect that and say, yeah, I'd like to be part of that conversation?
This is one of the hardest things, though, when you saw and listened to the January 6th Commission as they were investigating, and they told the story of Mike Pence, very much the way you described it, of, I don't want to say it was heroic, but it was admirable what he did and how he went about it. But it's like, hey, you did a great job, but in the same breath, there's no way I would vote for you. The center so often is just drawn to the polarized choices. What do you do with these folks that are not as charismatic, that aren't as warm and cuddly, that have something to say, but for some reason we are incapable of hearing them?
I'm going to tell them to go hire Mara.
Yeah.
No, and it will be an ability to communicate in a different way. Remember, the pendulums always swing in our politics, and they don't always swing back. They often need a little bit of a nudge. And so you will have a candidate who will figure out a new way to have that conversation, who will push the pendulum to start swinging the other direction, and then you can see it gain some momentum. What won't change it is the status quo. And the people who are in power are all too happy for status quo to continue because it keeps them in power. And so you'll see a resistance to that. And so the people like a Mike Pence, like a Tim Scott, like a Nikki Haley, they're going to have to figure out new ways to package and frame what it is they're saying.
Because another word I'm going to bring into it is another word for liking someone is connecting with them.
Yeah.
And if Pence can figure out how to connect, which has been a challenge for him, it's slightly different than liking because liking is often about energy and style. Connecting can be a policy-driven person, but you got to work pretty hard because we do want to feel the connection. Trump did that well last cycle. He tapped in to this unspoken. People had a hard time articulating it, but you could see they felt the connection. Yeah. If Pence or Haley or others in there can figure out how to connect and be policy driven, you might find a sort of a winning ticket there.
Yeah, because what President Trump actually did is he tapped into that angst and that frustration, and then suddenly there was a connection of, oh my gosh, he's saying what I've been yelling at my TV for 2 years now. And so he made that connection. I think similarly, some of these other candidates will be able to make that connection. It's like, you know what, that is what I actually believe. Or, man, I'd love to be part of that kind of conversation. And that'll be the ultimate test for all the candidates.
Boyd Matheson, today, Inside Sources from 1 to 3. All right, we are less than a month away from a program. There's so many bills that get passed, you may have forgotten what's coming up here. Well, first-time home buyers may be able to get $20,000 to help them get into the housing market. Just about a month out, we're going to talk to Senate President Stuart Adams about the new $20,000 to get into a first home program.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Hi, it's Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Why should you start your day with us?
We have decades of news experience between us.
And we take your trust seriously.
Come here for news tomorrow, 5 to 9.
On KSL.
It may be summer, but the news isn't slowing down this year.
For Stewart to step down.
Construction of the West Davis corridor continues.
Warmest May ever.
Make KSL your go-to each morning this summer. Utah's Morning News with Tim and Amanda starts at 5. We talk through the biggest stories with Dave and Dujanovic at 9 and Boyd Matheson at 1. Then drive home with key news updates with Jeff Kaplan from 3 to 7. Your all-summer companion for news. KSL News Radio.
Emergency traffic on KSL News Radio, brought to you by Granite Credit Union, helping members since 1935. We've had a couple of crashes on I-15, both north and southbound, in the Pleasant Grove and Linden area, and we have delays in both of those directions on I-15 through that stretch. Now, on the southbound side, as you're approaching Linden, that crash involves multiple vehicles, and this is a chain reaction where you're following too closely, and several vehicles are now blocking the fast lane. Then on the northbound side, we have a crash, and crews are blocking off a right lane of traffic. Something has spilled out of this vehicle. They may need to bring hazmat in to clean it out. This is northbound I-15 at Pleasant Grove Boulevard. Again, you're going to expect delays in both directions. Plan on an extra 10 minutes as of now of extra travel time. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
What I learned from Soda weight loss when I lost this 34 pounds and have kept it off for, a year and a half now, is that weight loss starts and ends in the kitchen. It is what you eat. Should you exercise? Yes, absolutely you should. And they encouraged me to walk, and I do walk. In fact, I swim now. I exercise more. But it starts and ends with the food choices you make. And I was just a dumb eater. I thought I was a good eater. I'd eat oatmeal and yogurt and granola, and I thought that was good. I had to wipe all that out for the time that I lost weight. Now that I'm on maintenance, I can include things back in, but it's about the food.
Yeah, SOTA is spelled S-O-T-A, and it really is about science. State of the art is what it stands for, and my daughter lost 42 pounds. Here's the great thing. You do get more energy, so you actually help yourself in keeping that weight off by moving more and doing the things you enjoy, like swimming for you. Go to SOTAweightloss.com. It's spelled S-O-T-A. Think Tim and Amanda. SOTA Weight Loss is state of the art.
Hi, this is Cameron Rising. Growing up, summer break was the best, but I've learned that a lot of kids don't feel the same. That's because summer means their school breakfast and lunch won't be available. What's awesome is the food bank helps. Join me and Les Olson IT by giving food, time, or money. Take your donations to any Les Olson IT branch or the food bank, and find more info at lesolson.com/food. Let's support our community together.
Yeah, I'm so stressed. Our business is growing. We've got people all over now.
Ooma.
What is that? Meditation?
I'm recommending the Ooma cloud phone system with auto attendant and more than 50 features.
Ooma?
Yep, switching to Ooma is a cinch. Just $24.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Now you're feeling it. Find small business calm at ooma.com/radio. That's OOMA.com/radio.
You could throw your flip-flop at a bug.
Ew, a bug, get it.
But the chances of actually hitting it
Over there!
are statistically
It's still alive.
unlikely. Good thing nature's got your back. Stem bug killers combine powerful active ingredients found in plants, like lemongrass and geraniol, and scientifically engineer them into effective bug-fighting formulas, safe for use as directed around people, pets, and throughout the home. Stem, rooted in nature, optimized by science.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, bad weather was passing through Palisades State Park when a man drowned there yesterday. Second, a man died and a woman was injured yesterday in a motorcycle accident on State Street in Murray. Third, former Vice President Mike Pence has filed the paperwork to run for president. He's planning an announcement later this week. Right now, 75 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Joining me today instead of Debbie Dujanovic, Mara Carabello with the Exoro Group, and also a host of KSL at Night. That's the side hustle.
Yeah,
because
but
you're not busy enough, I guess.
But now I'm big time day with you.
Big time
I'm
day.
loving this.
You know what? You're heavily involved in the legislature and following what is getting passed, what doesn't pass, what has some legs. But there were so many bills that got passed this last session. It's hard to keep track of all of them.
It is, yes.
But this is one that's coming up that is very interesting, and it directly deals with something that I think every parent, every young kid is struggling with, is how do I get into the housing market?
That's right. You and I both have kids who are headed into buying their first home. I I just have to, like, the legislature, particularly Senator Adams, deserves a round of applause on. We're looking at an affordability problem in Utah, right? And it's so weird because I have to wrap my brain around it. I enjoy this old school version of Utah where we're accessible and affordable, but we want our kids to stay around here, and it's getting harder and harder, particularly to buy that first house.
And there's a lot of eye of the beholder, right? If you look at what a quote-unquote affordable house is here in Utah, compare it to San Francisco or New York and
Right.
then yeah, we are still incredibly affordable. Just depends on what you grew up and what you're used to, what your price point is. Well, a new program from the state offers first-time home buyers up to $20,000 to help get them into the housing market. And you mentioned Senate President Stuart Adams kind of spearheading this. He joins us right now. Thanks for joining us, President.
Hey, great to be with you. And this is a very exciting program. I'm thankful that you'll be able to spend a minute or two with me this morning.
Okay, remind our listeners how it works and who is going to be eligible.
Again, it's first home buyers. So you've had to live in Utah for a year before you close, which means if you find a new home, which this is 4 new homes, 5 or 6 months into the process, and it takes 5 or 6 months to build it, and you've lived in Utah that long, you qualify. And you have to be a first home buyer, which means you can't have owned a home for the last 3 years. And if that qualifies you, you receive $20,000. You can use it to buy down your interest rates. You can use it toward your down payment, or you can use it to cover your closing costs. Now, this isn't just a gift. You have to pay it back when you sell the home, but it helps you get in that home. And again, home ownership is what I refer to as an American dream. I think it's a Utah dream. We've been focusing a lot on multifamily apartments, and that's surely something we need to help with. But home ownership is something I think we shouldn't forget.
Now, President, just to be clear, if I qualify for the house, I qualify for this loan. So other than that, I don't have to show any other financial ability because if I can buy the house, the state would also help me out with this loan.
Absolutely. So what you do is you can go to utahhousing.org, or you can go find your bank or mortgage lender or credit union and make application. If you qualify for the loan, they will hold this money for you, this $20,000 for 90 days while you go look for a home. And then after that 90 days, if you need more time, you can get an extension. But then you make an offer, and then they'll work with you through the construction process to be able to have the money available when you close. Again, it's really exciting to get people into their first home.
And just to clarify, make sure people are crystal clear on this, this is not to help with existing homes. This is for new builds. Is this single-family dwellings, or can I use it for a condo or a townhouse?
You can use it for a condo or a townhome or a single-family dwelling. And the reason it's for new homes is we have the problem with our affordability is we don't have enough product. We don't have enough availability of housing. So this is to stimulate and to try to motivate cities and builders to build a home under $450,000 or a condo or a townhome to help with that affordability problem. And the more we get on the market, the more homes we get built, the better off we're going to be with affordability. So, again, it has to be a new home, and it has to be either a condo or a home under $450,000.
Okay, so I got to ask the question, how much money do we have? Can everyone who applies this year probably get some? Are you going to maybe allocate some more at the next session? Is there enough money for anyone who wants it?
What we put $50 million into the program, and that's enough for 2,500 families. And that's, if you figure maybe 4 people, a couple of kids, 4 people per family, that's 10,000 Utahns that will actually qualify. And again, when you sell the home or refinance it, the money will go back into the program. And if the program's successful, we'll look next session at maybe adding more money to it. But this initial effort is $50 million, and that's quite an effort.
Remind me, how do I know if the home or the place that I'm looking at qualifies? Because I know there are a lot of apartment buildings or homes, townhomes going up, but they're only partially finished. Like, how do I know whether or not this is qualifies as a new build?
Well, first of all, the qualification is it hasn't been lived in before. So if it's under construction now, it will qualify. But you can go to utahhousing.org and you can look at their website. They'll help you through it. You can also, again, probably your best source would be to your local mortgage company or bank. There's a list of qualifying mortgage companies and banks and credit unions on the Utah Housing website. You can go there also. But again, the program will become available July 1. The money's available. Utah Housing's putting together the process. I think they're hoping to roll it out July 10th, and no later than August, even if there's problems with it. But it'll be available midsummer, within almost 30 days. So it's a great opportunity for people looking at their first home.
Hey, before I let you go, let me shift gears a little bit. We just learned last week that Congressman Chris Stewart is going to resign from the House of Representatives, isn't leaving until September. There's a practicality issue here that keeps popping into my brain about how long it's going to take to get a new congressperson elected. And we talked to one of your counterparts, House Speaker Brad Wilson, and he said, you know what, there's a chance that we would need a special session to be called to perhaps move the deadline up. Since at least Mara and I have been doing the math, it feels like it'd take about 7 months or so to get Congressman Stewart's seat replaced. What's your appetite for speeding up that process?
Well, we can't leave Utah without representation for very long. So I agree with Speaker Wilson, and we've had some conversations that we probably will need a special session. We will need to adjust the statute and work with the election offices to make sure that it fits. But my hope is that we will do it quickly. We will do it efficiently like Utah does things. We will miss Congressman Stewart. He's been just a phenomenal representative for Utah. He's worked so hard, represented things that I care about very deeply, Hill Air Force Base, our military, and I think that the moral values of Utah. So he'll be greatly missed. It's kind of sad to see him leave, but we will act as efficiently as possible and hopefully not leave Utah without representation very long.
Would it be outside of the expected election dates?
You know, I think the election officers are going to have a tough time trying to run separate elections. So we'll probably have to try to work with the existing dates. But my hope is that we would have it done very shortly after he resigns. So we'll be working through that, and I don't have all the details, but we are surely working on it. And I think we're pretty much aligned. I think everyone's in agreement to try to do it as fast as possible.
Would it be reasonable to think this may happen during the interim session in June, the outline of the process?
I would be very. It's highly probable that we'll probably have to adjust the statute in our June interim meeting. So, but we're talking about that. But I think my opinion is we'll probably have to meet to do that in our interim meeting in June.
Senate President Stuart Adams, thank you for joining us, and we appreciate your time.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. Salt Lake City police say a large and rowdy crowd got in their way. This man lay dying from a gunshot wound yesterday. Police spokesperson Brent Weisberger tells KSL TV 2 people were arrested because of their behavior after the shooting.
The people who were there, they witnessed something very traumatic, and so emotions were very high.
He says one person was arrested for crossing the yellow police tape and the other arrested after a big fight broke out. The shooter got away before officers arrived. Utah's migratory shorebird survey is back after a 30-year hiatus. Ashley Kajowski with the Eccles Wildlife Education Center says the data collected so far shows a significant decline in the number of birds living around the Great Salt Lake.
We do know that shorebird numbers across the Pacific Flyway are down from other data. I think they are using and shifting their use on the lake.
Kajowski says even though the spring survey revealed lower than usual migration numbers, this could be due to a change in the water levels. And that those are higher this year than in the previous years. Additional fall survey data will be collected in August to give us a better idea of what's changed over the past 30 years. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. 4 people died when a Citation jet crashed in a mountainous area of Virginia yesterday. F-16 fighter jets were scrambled to shadow the plane when it didn't respond to radio calls. The pilot and passengers were unresponsive, possibly because they'd run out of oxygen inside the plane. The fighters didn't shoot it down because it was still at high altitude and wasn't headed toward any Washington, D.C. landmarks as it passed overhead. The FAA says it eventually spiraled downward over the Shenandoah Valley before it crashed. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average taking a downturn this morning, 123 points down right now. The NASDAQ, though, is up 53 points at this hour. And our KSL weather, that same old pattern with the thunderstorms in the afternoon. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:32.
What do you need to hear in the morning to feel ready for the day?
Important news that happened overnight, the traffic you'll hit on the roads.
You'll be ready for your day with us.
Join Utah's Morning News 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
It doesn't get better than summer camping in Utah, and it doesn't get any bigger than the Utah Summer RV Palooza, presented by Bish's RV. We're bringing the biggest RV show in the region to Layton, June 8th through the 10th. For 3 days only, the Layton Hills Mall is where you'll find a massive selection of top RV brands like Go Play, Ember RV, Forest River, Northwood, and a whole lot more. Get up to 20% below cost on select new 2022 RVs, and get 90 days no payments on approved credit for all play and no pay till September OAC. Summer RV Palooza is where you'll find a brand new 26 BH travel trailer. It's high quality at an undeniable value at a sale price of only $19,995. The selection is huge, and so are the trade-in offers. Get max value for your current RV when you trade in at the show. Shop the Summer RV Palooza now at bishes.com/Utah RV Palooza. 3 days only, June 8th through the 10th at the Layton Hills Mall. Sponsored by Bish's RV.
At Fisher Investments, we do things differently, and other money managers don't understand why.
Because our way works great for us.
But it may not work for your clients. That's why Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, obligated to put clients first. It's the highest standard for a financial advisor.
So, what do you provide? Cookie-cutter portfolios like the rest of us?
No cookie-cutter portfolios here. Fisher Investments tailors portfolios to meet each client's goals and needs.
But you do sell investments that earn you high commissions, right? And make commissions when you make trades for your clients?
No, Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission investment products, and we never earn commissions on trades.
So what's in it for you?
Fisher Investments fees are structured so we do better when our clients do better. When it comes to helping clients achieve a comfortable retirement, we're clearly different. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel you attract people who tend to be compulsive or abusive?
Do you have money problems because of someone else's drinking?
Are you afraid or embarrassed to bring your friends home?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
More than half of all adults have a family history of alcoholism.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union, helping members since 1935. Here's Ricky Meese.
We have an accident coming out of Parley's Canyon, westbound I-80. It looks like they're going to try to get that moved off the roadway and out of the way. It's as you're approaching I-215's belt route, And we also have delays in Summit County northbound Highway 40 trying to get to the I-80 junction at Silver Summit. The Utah Symphony's Deer Valley Music Festival in Park City features Ben Folds, Leanne Rimes, the Beach Boys, and more. June 30th through August 4th in Park City at DeerValleyMusicFestival.org. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we're looking for more afternoon thunderstorms across the state. They'll continue into next week. Our high today, 84, up to 87 tomorrow. And it's 76 degrees and partly cloudy right now at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's all-day companion news.
David Dujanovic.
Filling in for David Dujanovic, Mara Carabello with the Exoro Group. What do you guys do over there?
What do we do?
I know what your side hustle is.
A question. Yeah, that's right. I just do my side
KSL
hustle.
at night. That's how I know you.
Night. Yes, that's right. We are a public policy firm, so we do some communications. We do a lot of planning. We do opinion research. We have awesome clients because we work with corporations. We work with the government. We work with nonprofits. So like a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. All right. Well, I appreciate you filling in for Debbie today. We have some sad news that happened recently this weekend. An 18-year-old man died from an apparent drowning at Palisades State Park. Mara, I was just down at Gunlock Reservoir. There was another drowning that happened down there. You know, it's that time of the year. The sun is out. We do our hiking. We love our outdoors.
Right.
But there are, of course, the dangers as soon as you go outside of your house.
Especially on this big water year. It can come fast. It's cold. I don't know if we're taking that into impact, just how cold and how quickly it can come. Particularly, gosh, you guys who we recreate, but those of you who live in the southern part of the state, water can come and go pretty quick.
Devin Chavez joins us right now from Utah State Parks. Devin, can you give us an update of what happened here at Palisades State Park?
Yes, and thank you for having me again, Dave. So Saturday, unfortunately, is when this incident occurred, Saturday evening, just after 5 o'clock. We got called out along with Sanpete County Sheriff's Office. We had rangers respond out there as well. A man, an 18-year-old from Goshen named Alejandro Morales, was swimming with some friends. A little bit of some inclement weather came in. They started struggling. Some passersby helped some swimmers out that were also struggling, but Alejandro went under the surface of the water and didn't pop back up, so they called for help. So we responded, and then some members of the public actually helped in the immediate search as well. People on the beach, other people there, all assisted in that search. And they did find him, but he was in 15 to 20 feet of water. They tried to revive him, transport him to the hospital, but he unfortunately passed away overnight.
You mentioned some weather was a factor in this. Can you describe a little more how to be prepared? How quickly does it come in? What are we talking? Is it waves? Is it the cold? What happens when weather comes in?
A little bit of all of it can play a part in any outdoor recreation activity, but especially when water is involved, like you guys have said. Cold water, even when it's hot outside. Southern Utah, a lot of people might think, hey, it's wonderful and hot out. I'm going to go, take a dip. But that water is still quite cold. Just because it's warm outside doesn't mean the water is going to match that temperature. Keep in mind, too, a lot of this water is coming from snowmelt from a winter that lasted a lot longer than usual. So that water is going to be a little bit more cold. And then weather as well. Weather can change at the drop of a hat. You can get some waves that you're not expecting, some rain even in some places, thunder. So before going out, always checking the weather forecast beforehand is key. And if you're visiting a state park, we post water temperature conditions quite regularly and encourage people to look at those before getting in the water as well. But more important is always going with friends, a buddy, not going alone. That way, if something does happen, like it did in this case, we can get rescuers out as quickly as possible.
Remind us,
wearing your life jacket, of course.
Okay, that's where I was going next is remind us, were they wearing life jackets in this situation?
Not in this situation. We do not believe. When we recovered him, he was not wearing one. We're still doing an investigation, but it does not appear so.
when we're talking about the weather, especially this cold water, even when it's warm outside, as soon as you get out of that cold water, if the wind is blowing, it's hard to warm up when that wind's blowing, even if it is a fairly warm day.
Yeah, and a lot of people are used to their swimming pools if they haven't been out in, open water areas. And there's a lot of new recreators going out there. So if there are new recreators planning on visiting state parks or really any reservoir this season, do so, but please do so responsibly. Cold water, really under 70 degrees is where some things can start to happen in your body. You can start shivering and cramping up, and it goes down from there. Under 60, things can start getting quite dangerous. And just please remember to stay safe, wear your life jacket, and always err on the side of caution.
Devin, does time of day play a factor in, or is it just being aware of the circumstances more than the time of day?
Time of day can vary park to park. There's a lot of parks that might get a wind that kicks up from the north, say. They might just call, hey, there's that north wind coming in. It's around 1 o'clock pretty regularly. It'll blow in. Other parks, they don't have that. But it does, in the morning and in the evening or late afternoon, start to get colder at pretty much any of our parks. So time of day does play a factor in it. So that's why we always encourage, don't check the weather when you get there. Check the weather the day before or even the morning of planning to go out, so you can know what to expect, know what to pack, and know if you need to make alternate plans.
When wearing a life jacket, that's pretty self-explanatory. I think we all kind of understand when we should be wearing a life jacket. But one of the recommendations is wearing a helmet. At what point should I be wearing helmet in my recreation?
Really, anytime you're on a off-highway vehicle, an OHV is what we call it, but that includes side-by-sides, four-wheelers, off-highway motorcycles like dirt bikes or things of that nature, or really any of these new contraptions that you see in the off-highway world coming out, things like dune buggies or even some of those one-wheeled skateboard things that can get up going pretty fast, mountain biking, really anything with a wheel or any mode of transportation that's going to potentially impact your brain, you want to be wearing a helmet.
Devin Chavez, thank you for joining us from Utah State Park as we learned about an 18-year-old man that died from an apparent drowning at Palisade State Park. Palisade, is that a little bit south of Manti? I think that's right. Yeah, I think it is.
Yes.
I'll pull up Google Maps.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Yeah, there's so many state parks in this place. It's kind of hard to keep track of them, but I'm fairly certain, yeah, Palisade's kind of by Manti, south of Nephi area. Southeast, I think. Anyway, thank you, Devin Chavez, for joining us. And this is something, Mara, obviously, we love Utah for these reasons. We love being outside. We love being able to go to the millions of state parks and recreating in a million different ways, whether it's water sports or off-highway vehicles, boating, whatever it might be. But there's a lot of opportunities to get hurt, too.
And we get so familiar, right? It's who we are. It's what we're doing. And you forget that Mother Nature is to be respected. And like you said, it's usually just a little conscientiousness before you go, right? It's not hard. We just need to take a minute, look at the weather, make sure you bring all the gear. Don't skimp on bringing the gear. Make sure you have access if you need it.
I can't even begin to tell you how overly confident I am in my abilities. As I was hiking around Gunlock Reservoir and scampering up these waterfalls, I'd forgotten that I'm not 24 years old anymore. I don't move around quite as easily as I did back then. But yeah, overconfidence, that's definitely my Achilles heel. But when we come back, we're talking about the summer. School is out. You're trying to figure out, your kids are so happy to be done with school. But what's next? Straight ahead. What if your kid's bored? I'm bored. What do you do? How do you manage it? BYU psychologist Tom Golightly joins us next. How to deal with kids. I'm bored.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Before Dave and Debbie get started each day, this station is all news all morning.
And later today, we follow up on those stories as you drive home.
Get important news all morning and all afternoon.
Here on KSL News Radio.
Text us here in the studio and give us your opinion. The Cypress Credit Union KSL text line at 57500.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. The driving force behind Utah's economic opportunity is the recruitment and retention of highly skilled employees. Zettler CEO Armand Patella shares how their employee referral software provides a competitive edge for businesses in Utah.
Zettler is a modern employee referral program that acts like a talent magnet, effortlessly attracting the best employees for your company. There's no risk to being willing to pay for quality. Referrals are often the most effective talent acquisition channel. So when you use Zettler, you'll recruit employees that are a high-quality fit for your company and only pay when this occurs. Get started today and set up a time to meet with a Zettler team member. They will walk you through the software and share how other employers have utilized the platform for their benefit.
Zettler is the first retention-based payment system that enables businesses to pay other individuals, groups, or businesses based on the retention of an employee that someone referred. Help find the best employees for your team and check out the Zettler website. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning have an exciting offer that's literally going to give you some well-deserved free time. Zero Res is partnered with Unload, Utah's premier valet laundry and dry cleaning service for busy individuals, families, and businesses. And this Monday and Tuesday, they have a special gift for you. Schedule your carpet cleaning right now and get your first 4 rooms of carpet cleaned for just $99 and a free valet laundry service from Unload. Dirt, dust, dander, and allergens don't stand a chance. So if the spring pollen is starting to catch you, or maybe it's just time for a regular cleaning, make the call today. No other company can offer you the same no-residue cleaning, combined with tile, upholstery, and air ducts too. With Zero Res, it truly is a whole home cleaning. Make time for what matters most with Zero Res and Unload. 4 rooms cleaned for $99 and a free service from Unload. Call for details and restrictions. Limited time offer ending on June 6th or after the first 100 customers. For more, visit ZeroRes.com. ZeroRes.com.
You know how they always used to ask you in grade school, what do you want to be when you grow up? I bet I'm the only kid who ever stood proud and said, I want to be a rain gutter or siding installer. Jim Jr. here with RGS Exteriors, and man, I can still remember all those wannabe astronauts and quarterbacks looking at me like I was an idiot. Who would want to install rain gutters or siding? Somebody who was a 4th generation in business. That's who. My great-grandfather, T.R. Brown, started the company in the 50s. Then my grandfather took over from him, then my dad, Tim Sr., and now I've been at the helm since 2005. Every day I wake up and think, man, I'm living the dream. And now my own kids are starting to work in the business too. 5 generations. If you want gutters, siding, windows, or any exteriors on your home, and a company that really cares deep down to our souls, give RGS a call. 801-280-3110 or find us online, rgsutah.com. That's rgsutah.com. 801-280-3110, rgsutah.com.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical, and I wanted to let you know what you can expect when you walk into one of our 10, soon to be 11 stores. This story came to us from one of our many 5-star Google reviews.
I was panicked and needed help. My daughter had a serious family emergency, and I needed to travel out of town, but I couldn't haul my oxygen tanks with me. I needed portable oxygen. I tried several companies and they all said I didn't have a prescription. I went to Alpine and they called my doctor. 20 minutes later, I was on my way with a portable oxygen machine.
At Alpine Home Medical, we understand how urgent your healthcare needs can be. We'll do everything we can to exceed your expectations. Let us help you bring wellness home. Visit us online at alpinehomemedical.com. That's alpinehomemedical.com.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
alpinehomemedical.com.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, 4 people died in the crash of a light plane in Virginia. It didn't respond to radio calls. Fighter jets shattered it as it passed over Washington, D.C. Second, what would a survey of shorebirds show 30 years ago compared to now? Well, there are far fewer of them along the shores of the Great Salt Lake. Third, authorities are looking at charges against a driver accused of causing the deaths of 2 people in a road rage incident in Eagle Mountain. Right now, 76 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Okay, parents, how many of you have heard this already? We're only a few weeks into school being out. How many of you heard this from your kids already? I'm bored. And then how do you feel when you hear those dreaded words? I'm bored.
Dave, you and I are starting this segment in trouble because we were just reminiscing about the good old days, right?
Yeah, the good old days.
Where we were feral and no one cared what we were doing. But, yeah, vacation is here. Is being bored good? Is it bad? Is it somewhere in between?
has boredom been linked to risky behavior? Ooh, that's an interesting thing as well. And how do you handle this? We saw this in a Deseret News article that I thought was fascinating, is how to handle kids that are bored. What do you do as a parent? I will tell you, I've swung back and forth a little bit on the pendulum with my oldest. We overscheduled him. There was zero boredom because we had overscheduled him to a degree that it was, track practice right after school, and then you've got to leave track practice 15 minutes early to go to baseball practice. And then I'll never forget this. Then he had piano lessons after baseball practice.
Wow. What would he say about that now?
He didn't know any better.
Hearty thank you. He didn't know.
Thanks, Pops.
That's the slogan of parenting. You don't know any better.
You don't know any better. You just dealt with it. And now on child number 4, it's like, hey, do you need an extra charge on that iPad?
Did we feed you today?
Here's some cereal. Eat all the cereal you want.
So I was a little interested in this article to hear this concept that boredom proneness. You're prone to being bored. And if that's true, some parts of this article asserted that there are mental health issues ranging from overeating to gambling problems later on in life if you are someone who hasn't learned to, I guess, deal or work through your boredom.
Yeah, and that's a great thing is how do you combat that? Assistant Director of Athletics, Counseling, and Psychological Services at BYU, Tom Golightly, joins us. And Tom, I don't know. I know I'm a terrible parent as far as overscheduling, and now that I've got my tail ender coming along, I basically ignore him. So somewhere in between, I think there's some good parenting to be had.
Oh, I'm sure. That's. I was free today because I was just so bored out of my mind. I could come on the radio with you guys, right? Like, I mean, there is a happy medium there, but there are real benefits to boredom in some ways. And I think back to the good old days as well. I was one of those feral children. We do learn how to manage that boredom. So without those opportunities, and if we're all constantly overstimulated and we're seeking that stimulation, if we don't learn how to deal with the downtime, then we are going to find some of those problematic behaviors as listed in that article. So it's really important to have a skill built up on how do I manage myself when I've got nothing going on. And that's a really, really important component of boredom. Part 2, it's okay to have a little bit of downtime. We are overstimulated. And I kind of giggled when I said risky behavior, or when I read that in the article, mostly because it's like, well, what is risky? I think we've redefined that over time. And, I was riding a bike all around town when I was
without a helmet, I'm sure.
Old. Oh, absolutely never. Like, we made fun of those people, right? But now, of course, it's way safer and we know better. But I think we have kind of moved the benchmark a little bit. But and can there be risky behaviors? Yes. But if we don't teach them how to self-regulate, then they are going to be more prone to engaging in those truly risky behaviors like addictions and other things.
And I think, so this is my 2 bits. Tom, you can correct it later on the record. But, I'm gonna quote my favorite person, James Taylor, who says the secret of life is enjoying the passing of time. And I look at kids who are struggling right now with anxiety. And anxiety, for me, has a relationship with anxiousness about what I'm not doing, what my expectations are, which has a relationship in my world to boredom and more saying accepting time and space and enjoying just a view or enjoying a moment of quiet, and what that does to your metabolic systems. And even so, I think I might be a fan. I say. I no longer have young children who are chanting at me that they're bored, but there does seem to be this benefit to slowing down and letting time absorb you.
I think one buzzword really very notion is mindfulness. To really be presently engaged. Am I doing what I'm doing, or am I constantly worried about things? One thing that I think internet and social media has brought on is this huge FOMO. What am I missing out if I'm bored? And so I have to find something to not out. right? And so if I'm constantly trying to find that thing that I need to accomplish, the problem is I was looking for that thing instead of just being present and enjoying the time that we're passing. I can't creativity is spurned from boredom. How we would look at 9-year-old friends and go, we're bored. Okay, what are we going to do? This is on us, guys. Like, we can figure this out. And some of the best ideas and some of the problematic ideas are challenging those moments, but awesome. And I have that fear of missing out driving us, and I think you're right about that anxiety. And it's kind of there and then anxiety about realities. They're kind of created in our head. They're not real to us. They're just kind of made up in some ways. So can we just sit in the present and enjoy where we're at and be where we're at, where our feet are?
When you talk about overstimulation, you used that word a couple of times. What are you speaking to exactly, and what's kind of the danger of being overly stimulated?
Well, without any time to down-regulate, to manage that activation of our brain, our brain will kind of set itself to want that high level of activation. And that's where the anxiety disorders kind of come in, where we're tricking our brains into constantly being in fight or flight or kind of seeking that stimulation. We kind of need to let it reset a little bit, let the battery recharge. And we are going to manage our anxiety a lot better if we manage that stimulation. So if there's constant noise, there's constant stimulation from whatever sense that you have from the environment, it's going to trigger that response. And so if we can kind of invite what we would call a more parasympathetic response instead of a sympathetic response, we're going to be managing that stimulation a lot better. And it's a lot healthier way to engage the present.
Dr. Tom Golightly, thanks for joining us, a psychologist at BYU that we tap into his expertise all the time. Thanks for joining me, and good luck not being bored this summer.
Thanks, you too. Take care.
Now, it's hilarious, Maura, because you and I look at boredom as something like an achievement.
Right.
Like I'm begging to be bored. I would love that opportunity.
That is correct. A day with nothing in front of me would be a gift.
But if you stack too many days in a row, then I don't know, maybe we'd feel differently. And because our kids don't work, because they don't have the responsibilities oftentimes at this age, then you can see you start stacking day on end, then boredom it's a real thing.
Yeah, and then something else the article pointed out that I think is worthy of mentioning is that kids were most bored when they were given tasks that had little autonomy or choice. And, when we talk about our youth and being feral, we were choosing. We were sort of exploring the world around us. And I think over-programming, but also making sure that if your kids are really bored, engage them in giving them the choice and the autonomy to make that choice. So they're essentially also making their own decisions about how to interest and stimulate themselves. But I think there is something to being given a choice. I'm less bored with decisions I make on my own.
Yeah, I like that. I've also thought kids left to their own devices will do nothing. Right. It's very easy to sit in front of a computer or look at a screen and just kill hours. So, it is a balance that we're trying to figure out as parents, and the kids are trying to figure out themselves. Maura, thank you for filling in for Debbie today.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen on the KSL News Radio app and in your car at 102.7 FM. KSL News Radio.